Chapter 1648. It's fine. He doesn't seem to have gone mad, Xiaolan said, feeling relieved. Du Xiaofu was still standing in the void, his body rippling with radiance. With a thought, ancient runes rippled around his body, which then transformed into an 8 trigrams diagram that enveloped him. This was no longer the 8 ancient runes, but a true 8 trigrams diagram. Qian, Kuan, Zhen, Sun, Kan, Li, Zhen, and Dui. The 8 directions connected with each other and transformed into a resplendent divine ring, making Du Xiaofu look like a divine spirit in the sky. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's black hair scattered behind his head. His body was sparkling and translucent, and his body was covered with purple arcs of electricity, revealing a purple-gold color. That was the manifestation of the indestructible Xian body. The golden-winged Great Ping race had refined the divine body to the true Ping realm. Coupled with the 8 trigrams divine ring around his body, the formless aura made people tremble in fear. What a strange feeling. It's fiercer than a heaven's chosen, gentler than a supreme being, but its aura surpasses that of a heaven's chosen and a supreme being. Delan said. She could feel the aura emanating from the purple-robed man's body, which was released into the world. It no longer made people want to kneel down, but was indescribably comfortable. At this moment, she even felt that if she could cultivate by the Demon King's side, she would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. He's different. The woman surnamed Su was also surprised and shocked. Everyone could feel that the Demon King was different from the rest. The light was brilliant, and the pressure was quietly released into the world. That kind of pressure was like the water in the sea, able to bear everything. When the wind was calm and the waves were calm, it made people yearn for it. The heart was vast, and it could nourish all things. But if it was a violent storm, it would create stormy waves that would destroy everything. The true self, he found, is different. It's vast, too vast. Dongli Qingqing said softly. She could feel a kind of vast aura from the 8 trigrams diagram, as if it contained all things in the world. Compared to it, her true self was like a magician in front of a magician. From the 8 trigrams diagram, Dongli Qingqing could also clearly feel the incomparably domineering aura of the golden-winged Great Peng, as well as the aura of thunder that could kill the world. Walala, Du Xiaofu formed the 8 trigrams diagram, which lingered in the air. Upon closer inspection, there were 64 positions in the surroundings, which converged to form a diagram that was incomparably complex and profound. The place where Du Xiaofu was at was like a concentrated point. In the 8 main positions, strands of natural energy were gathering and surging towards his body. They could nourish his body and warm his primordial spirit, flowing endlessly. It's so comfortable. It's endless, as if it's inexhaustible. Du Xiaofu was shocked and puzzled. Within his 8 trigrams, his physical strength and primordial spirit strength were endless. Within the 8 trigrams, it was like he was in his own world. He could control everything. This feeling was similar to when a cultivator at the martial domain realm released his ultimacy and enveloped the void with his own domain realm. Within one's own domain, everything was under one's control. Among the domain realm experts, there were initial domain, sealed domain, great domain, bounded domain, and so on. Every increase in domain realm meant an increase in one's comprehension of ultimacy and comprehension of heaven and earth. The power one could control would also be greater. It could be said that a domain was also a heaven. However, Du Xiaofu felt that his 8 trigrams diagram was obviously more complex and profound than those of the domain realm experts and other supreme nirvana realm experts. The 8 trigrams diagram could connect heaven and earth and contain all things. It was like a small world, or even a small universe. I'm looking forward to this battle. Du Xiaofu said. The 8 trigrams diagram disappeared from his body. His eyes were suffused with a purple-gold light. At the same time, fluctuations began to appear in the desolate ancient space not far from Dongli Qingqing. Then, 9 figures flew out. They were the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, and her 8 maidservants. Du Xiaofu had broken through and reached the Nirvana realm in 2 days. Adding the 10 days in the desolate ancient space, Lian Qingrong had been in the desolate ancient space for exactly 1 month. At this moment, Lian Qingrong was in the sky. White light surged around her like a white sun. Ice and snow filled the sky and shrouded the abyss. Lian Qingrong had been severely injured for only 1 month. At this moment, it seemed that Lian Qingrong had completely recovered, which was both shocking and astonishing. 1 month's time is up. Fight! Du Xiaofu said. His battle robe fluttered. At this moment, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He was looking forward to this battle to verify the results of his comprehension. Fight! Lian Qingrong's eyes were filled with white snow. She looked at Du Xiaofu. At this moment, she suddenly felt a kind of vast aura. It seemed that this kid had changed again in a short time. It was as if he had ascended again. Fight! However, Lian Qingrong was not afraid. She had never been afraid. In an instant, her fighting spirit surged. In the depths of her eyes, there seemed to be glaciers moving. On her white battle robe, there were some runes that swept out. It was as if white snow was falling from the void around her. Her whole body's aura began to flourish. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the 8th maidservant's face was rosy. After a month of recuperation, she had recovered a lot. At this moment, her beautiful figure was continuously retreating. They had already seen the battle between her master and the Demon King. With their cultivation and strength, even if they joined forces, they would not be affected at all. Putting everything aside, the Demon King was indeed incomparably terrifying. Let's start. You shall submit. A purplish golden light flowed in Du Xiaofu's eyes. She stretched out her hand. Resplendent purple flames rolled out, turning into a gigantic purple flame demonic phoenix in the air. It swept towards Lian Qingrong. The blazing aura that filled the sky whistled, it could destroy everything. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, the purple flame demonic phoenix's terrifying blazing aura was accompanied by the supreme beast's aura. Purple flames rolled out, dazzling and shocking. It was as if a gigantic purple flame demonic phoenix had been born. It was incomparably real. Its power was completely different from before. Lian Qingrong's expression changed. She could feel the former's tyrannical strength. She exerted all her strength. An ice dragon was like a living creature, it roared and collided with the former. All. The battle between the dragon and the phoenix created a blazing hot and icy cold battle. The surrounding void exploded and collapsed. The entire abyss was trembling violently. Ice dragon battles the sky. Lian Qingrong exerted all her strength. She directly activated her martial veins and covered her body. It was as if she was wearing a battle armor. An ice dragon circled around her body, crossing the void. Her fist was like a dragon coming out from the deep sea. The cold ice covered the void. The white runes were like white snow pouring down, bright and dazzling. Rock chaos shattering claw. Du Xiaofu attacked. His body was covered with thunder veins. In an instant, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Purple lightning raged. He stretched out one of his claws, which tore the void apart, revealing 5 pitch-black space cracks. Lightning and golden light surged. It was as if a purple golden rock had flapped its wings and soared into the sky. It was as if a purple golden rock had appeared. The two of them attacked. At this moment, there was no testing at all. They already had a certain understanding of each other. They attacked with all their strength. And in this battle, Lian Qingrong went all out without holding back. She could not lose. Du Xiaofu did not think of losing. He had already stepped into the Nirvana realm. At the same cultivation level, he could crush everything. Qi La. The claw print collided with the cold ice. The golden-winged rock collided with the ice dragon. It was torn apart in an instant. The ice dragon showed fear in its eyes. After a short stalemate, it was already vulnerable. Dang dang. The purple-gold thunder claw print scratched the martial veins and talismans on Lien Qingrong's body. Her body was directly shaken back. Her eyes, which were like moving glaciers, were suddenly filled with horror. Chi. With the rock traveling 10,000 miles and the wave-like free steps, Du Xiaofu's figure quickly arrived in front of Lien Qingrong, who was shaken back. Accompanied by the roar of the void, lightning flashed and thunder roared. His momentum was incomparably overbearing, looking down on everything. Howl. The roar of the dragon and the roar of the elephant came out. Du Xiaofu's overbearing fist wave blasted out. The surrounding void collapsed in a straight line. The fist fell on Lien Qingrong's body with an overbearing momentum. The terrifying energy turned into ripples of strength, chi and talismans, like stormy waves, suddenly swept out in the void. Bang bang bang. The monstrous energy burst out in an instant. Waves of extremely terrifying energy storms blew up the surrounding abyss rocks. The cliffs shook and collapsed. The rock walls cracked and spread, and the earth showed a ravine as if it was destroyed. Bang! Lien Qingrong's body was directly blasted into the abyss rock wall. Young master. The 8 maidservants were shocked. She was blown away after just one exchange of blows. They had never seen their young master in such a sorry state. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Inside the abyss rock wall, there was a divine light sweeping out. The rocks exploded. In an instant, the entire abyss trembled and collapsed. The visual impact was shocking. 6 divine rings were in the sky. Lien Qingrong's figure rose from the collapsed abyss rock wall, shining brightly in the sky. How could he be so strong? Lien Qingrong's face changed color. She looked at Du Xiaofu in disbelief. She really felt the former's strength. It had only been a short month since she was healed, but he was completely different from before. Could it be that you only have this little bit of strength? If that's the case, then you should surrender earlier. Du Xiaofu said with a smile in his eyes. At this moment, he felt as if he could move mountains and overturn seas with a raise of his hand. It made his whole body feel indescribably comfortable. Lien Qingrong did not say anything. Her eyes were cold. She waved her hand and the supreme power was condensing. Immediately, the cold energy rose sharply and pierced through the sky. Her entire body was covered in snow-white symbols. She used the supreme power and everything she comprehended to form a supreme fist. At this moment, Lien Qingrong's hair danced in the wind. The hair in her head also turned snow-white. Her figure took to the sky and blasted out a fist. That rolling cold energy and supreme power surged like a tide, turning the void into a pitch-black void. That fist was incomparably dazzling and suddenly appeared on Du Xiaofu's chest. Boom! This fist exploded and directly crushed Du Xiaofu's chest. The supreme power poured out in torrents and was incomparably vast. Bang, 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 bang. That terrifying power swept out. The void behind Du Xiaofu's body exploded and collapsed. Chapter 1649. Zizi, the purple-gold electric arcs on Du Xiaofu's body were surging. His body was pushed back a step by Lien Qingrong's fist, but his foot stomped on the void behind him. The void under his foot was immediately frozen, and he immediately stabilized his body. But Du Xiaofu was unaffected. Electric arcs were still fluctuating on his body. His body was translucent, revealing a faint purple-gold color. His eyes were filled with a faint smile, and the corner of his mouth was curled into a smile that was not a smile. How can he be so strong? Lien Qingrong was shocked, and his eyes trembled fiercely. Not good, In the next moment, when Du Xiaofu's mouth curled into a smile that was not a smile, Lien Qingrong's expression suddenly changed, and his figure rapidly retreated. But it was too late. Du Xiaofu's figure rushed out, and his fist had already landed in a flash. Bang! A muffled sound like thunder resounded on Lien Qingrong's body. Lightning surged, golden light exploded, and the void behind Lien Qingrong's body continuously exploded. But Lien Qingrong was unable to remain unscathed like Du Xiaofu. The runes on his body were shattering, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Ice Sky Storm Fist. Ice Shattering Mountain Foot. Lien Qingrong was not a weakling. He was one of the few experts in the entire divine domain. At this moment, he knew what was best for him. He did not care about the injuries on his body, and did not continue to retreat. Instead, he forcefully counterattacked with all his strength. Rumble, fists rained down on Du Xiaofu like torrential rain. Footprints could shatter the void. Along with the terrifying ice chi that could freeze the void, Lien Qing's attacks landed on Du Xiaofu's body one after another. He did not believe that his opponent's body had reached the point of being indestructible. This was a true confrontation of strength, and he was going all out. The supreme power surged, and Lien Qingrong's comprehension condensed. His attack was fierce and violent, and it was earth-shattering. Come on! Du Xiaofu did not advance, and instead retreated. Using the immortal Xian body to fight against the golden-winged rock's divine body was the best defense. At the same time, one punch for another, one kick for another, Du Xiaofu fought in the most direct and barbaric way. With their cultivation and strength, the speed of the battle was as fast as lightning. In an instant, they had collided dozens of times in succession. The void collapsed, and a large number of energy runes swept out. The surrounding abysses exploded one after another, and crushed stones were swept up into the sky. This scene was too terrifying. Everything was razed to the ground, everything was destroyed, everything was sealed in ice for 10,000 li, its aura devouring mountains and rivers. Rumble, in the blink of an eye, the two of them collided with each other. In the end, they were stuck together like gangsters fighting. They shattered the void and scattered the clouds. The two of them fell into the abyss together from midair and rushed out again as the rocks turned into powder. They crashed into the rock walls and the towering trees and peaks in the distance. They fought until the sky turned dark, and it was difficult to tell who had the upper hand. In the distance, Lady Su, Big Lan, Little Lan, Yun Mu, and the others were already trembling with fear, their faces filled with shock. The 8 maidservants were even more shocked. Not long ago, they had seen with their own eyes that when facing their young master, that demon king Du Xiaofu could only contend for the sake of the child and was suppressed to a disadvantageous position. But they didn't expect that not long after, their young master was already completely suppressed. At this moment, their young master had already used his supreme power, and that demon king hadn't used his supreme power yet. This also meant that their young master had already used his full strength, and that demon king Du Xiaofu hadn't used his full strength, yet he was still suppressing their young master. This reversal was too fast. Rumble, the abyss collapsed, and the two of them rushed out again from the shattered rocks. PFFF, PFFF, in midair, Lien Qingrong spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was filled with shock, and she retreated rapidly, wanting to shake off Du Xiaofu. Bang, bang, bang. In midair, Du Xiaofu followed her like a shadow. Under rock of 10,000 miles and rippling carefree steps, his speed was enough to crush the former. Several consecutive fist prints rushed out again, directly blasting the former from midair into the abyss. Not good, young master is no match. Seeing this scene, the 8 maidservants' complexion turned pale, and their delicate bodies trembled. When Lien Qingrong rushed out from the collapsed abyss again, her hair was disheveled, her white battle robe was ragged, and the corners of her mouth were stained with blood. Her complexion had completely changed, and her eyes seemed to have a sky full of snow pouring down, and glaciers moving. Nirvana of true self. At this moment, Lien Qingrong finally knew that Du Xiaofu had stepped into the nirvana of true self, but she really couldn't understand why that guy could easily break through in such a short time. The speed of the breakthrough made her feel shocked. What made Lien Qingrong even more shocked was the former's strength. Originally, she had thought that perhaps she couldn't deal with that guy at the same level. But now, that guy had just stepped into the nirvana of true self, and she was already at the peak of nirvana of true self, but the result was that she had been firmly suppressed. To put it bluntly, she was simply being trampled. Such a result proved that it could make her heart tremble. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air, looking at Lien Qingrong. At this moment, there were some traces of blood on the corners of his mouth, but compared to Lien Qingrong, it was unknown how much better he looked. "It's really comfortable, my whole body is comfortable." Du Xiaofu stretched, and the surging Xian Qi in the divine watchtower was released. Although he had suffered heavy blows repeatedly, it didn't affect the immortal Xian body greatly. Instead, after the soreness, his whole body was indescribably comfortable. Is this the power of nirvana of true self? Du Xiaofu clenched his fists slightly. The feeling of being able to move a vast amount of power with just a raise of his hand was a great temptation to cultivators. Lien Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "In such a short time, you have already stepped into the nirvana of true self. You really surprised me. At the same level, you will no longer be my opponent. Surrender. With your talent, with your identity as the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, I will not wrong you. This is my promise to you, and also my respect for the Great Snow Mountain. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely help the Great Snow Mountain to reappear in the world." Du Xiaofu said seriously. This was his respect for the Great Snow Mountain, and for Lien Qingrong herself. With her talent, she should also be valued. Lien Qingrong's eyes moved, and she seemed a little surprised, but then she smiled faintly. Even if she was incomparably embarrassed at this moment, she was still so proud and majestic. She said softly, "You are very strong, and have exceeded my expectations time and time again. You have surprised me, but if you want to really do something to me, I'm afraid it's still not certain." Puff. When her voice fell, Lien Qingrong's hand seals changed rapidly, accompanied by a mouthful of blood essence from her mouth, and intertwined with the mysterious runes on her body. Boom! In an instant, the aura in Lien Qingrong's body skyrocketed. Under many surprised gazes, the mysterious runes on Lien Qingrong's body changed, like snow swirling in the sky, and above the void, instantly turned into a huge snow mountain giant. The snow mountain giant stood tall like an iceberg, and a bone-piercing cold aura filled the air, and a terrifying aura shook the void all around. This was a kind of secret technique, and also a terrifying technique. The entire abyss and the strange ancient forest around it also quietly turned into glaciers in an instant, and everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness. So cold. The sky was full of snow, and everywhere was turned into glaciers. Big Lawn, Little Lawn, and the woman surnamed Su were trembling all over. They used all their strength, but their chi was also unable to stop the terrifying cold aura. "Suppress!" The snow mountain giant shouted, and the 6 divine rings above its head shone brightly. The cold aura erupted, and its power skyrocketed in an instant, causing the surrounding void to be full of cracks, and suppressed Du Xiaofu. "Then you can try the 8 trigrams." Du Xiaofu slightly raised his head, and with a thought, ancient runes suddenly rippled from his body, and then turned into the 8 trigrams in the void around him. When the 8 trigrams appeared, the void suddenly trembled. Qian, Kun, Zhen, Sun, Kan, Li, Zhen, Dui, the 8 directions were connected, and turned into a bright divine ring, spreading out in all directions. Roar! On the 8 trigrams, there were the cries of thousands of beasts, lightning descending, golden-winged rocks flapping their wings, and the evolution of mountains and lakes. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning alternated, the sun, moon, and stars changed, and the mountains and rivers moved horizontally. When the 8 trigrams appeared and enveloped the surroundings, the 6 divine rings above the huge snow mountain giant's head suddenly began to dim, as if they would be extinguished at any time, not daring to compete. At this moment, the huge snow mountain giant's eyes trembled, as if glaciers were cracking, and icebergs were falling. The entire void rippled invisibly, and with Du Xiaofu as the center, the 8 trigrams spread out for thousands of feet. Du Xiaofu was like a holy spirit in the sky, and that invisible aura made people tremble in fear. Upper Kun and Lower Li, earthly fire, bright destruction. Du Xiaofu spoke, and a strange hand seal condensed out. At the same time, the 8 trigrams changed, and a vast pressure appeared in the void. Suddenly, from the void, lightning stars and rolling flames descended, as if they were destructive, enveloping this part of the world. Rumble, the entire void boiled, and the heaven and earth were resonating. The heaven and earth were also vast and turbulent, and the bright runes were like the sea, surging with stormy waves. At this moment, the huge snow mountain giant was crumbling inch by inch under that terrifying power. Puff puff, Lian Qingrong's figure appeared from the crumbling snow mountain giant, and blood was spurting out of her mouth. The white runes on her body were also crumbling, and her flesh was bleeding profusely. She fell to the broken ground below, and her hair was messy. Her white battle robe was stained with blood, and her eyes were bloodshot. Above the void, Du Xiaofu pointed at Lian Qingrong, and his eyes were purple and gold like lightning. He looked down and said, "You lost." Chapter 1650. Lian Qingrong raised her head and looked at Du Xiaofu. Deep in her eyes, she was at a loss. Even when she met those evildoers of the same generation, she had never been defeated. At most, they were evenly matched. The only way to determine the winner was to fight to the death. But now, the young man in front of her was just a real young man. She was defeated in a very embarrassing way. "Master," the 8 maidservants came to the front of Lian Qingrong, and their faces were a little flustered. "I was indeed defeated." Lian Qingrong's pale face showed a little smile. This kind of smile was bitter and strange, and there was a little loneliness in her eyes. "Remember, you are already my person. If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. You should surrender." Du Xiaofu's figure fell in front of Lian Qingrong. After his voice fell, he stuffed a few elixirs into his mouth and slowly walked to the side of Dongli Qingqing, looking calm. The level of true self, Dongli Qingqing smiled, but at this moment, there was still a little shock in her eyes. She was very nervous about the battle between him and Lian Qingrong and did not have much confidence. It was not that she did not have confidence in Du Xiaofu, but she was very clear about how strong Lian Qingrong, the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, was. It was not easy to really defeat her. At this moment, she was relieved and shocked by his terrible strength. "The nirvana of true self is the same as you." Du Xiaofu nodded with satisfaction. The nirvana of true self increased the strength by a lot, and there was a world of difference from the original. Dongli Qingqing smiled helplessly. She knew very well that they were both at the level of true self recently, but the best result for her in front of Lian Qingrong was to not be defeated. Compared with the guy in front of her, she was absolutely not enough. Squeak! In the distance, there were strange squeaks of the cloud-swallowing wolf shrews. "Master, there are many people coming. Do you want me to do it?" Yunmu suddenly came to the side of Du Xiaofu. "There were many people coming here. It doesn't matter. Let them come. Let's see if there's anyone we know," Du Xiaofu said. Although the thick clouds in the surroundings had been dispersed, the clouds in the distance had yet to disperse, preventing primordial spirits from prying. In this ancient forest, the cloud-swallowing wolves and shrews were much more sensitive than cultivators. Whoosh whoosh. Not long after, many figures flew over, and many vast auras fluctuated. After those figures landed, they began to size up their surroundings. They looked at each other in dismay and were on guard against each other. Du Xiaofu's eyes swept across the area. He did not recognize anyone. They should be cultivators who had lost their way in this ancient forest. The commotion caused by the previous battle must have attracted them here. Who knows how to get out? Step forward, or I won't go easy on you. More than 10 silhouettes descended, glaring at the crowd with ferocious gazes. Judging from their auras, they were all demonic beasts. We don't know either. We've been lost here for a few days. We still want to go out. Someone spoke up. They were not afraid of those demonic beasts. There were quite a number of human cultivators around as well. Do you know how to get out? Did you get some treasure just now? You'd better call it out, or else. A leading demonic beast stared at Du Xiaofu, Lian Qingrong, Dongli Qingqing, and the others with ferocious gazes. The threat was self-evident. You're courting death. Yun Shru was furious. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. She would not be suppressed in here, but those demonic beasts would still be suppressed. They could only reach the beast region. However, those demonic beasts did not know Yun Shru's identity. When they heard her, their auras surged. Ferocious auras swept out, and their ferocious eyes stared at Yun Shru. Yun Shru, leave some corpses intact. I want to eat meat. I'm tired from the battle just now. I need some nourishment, said Du Xiaofu. Yes, master. Yun Shru nodded. As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately pounced forward. Bang bang bang, roar, in an instant, the demonic beasts roared. Muffled explosions of energy rang out. However, it did not take long for the huge corpses of over a dozen demonic beasts to be laid across the chasm. They did not even know what kind of existence they had provoked before they were killed by a mere follower. Gulp gulp, many figures in the surroundings were stunned. They immediately retreated and gasped, not daring to approach. Sizzle sizzle, not long after, the aroma of barbecued meat filled the air. The smell of barbecued meat made one drool. It smells so good, Yun Shru drooled. The expressions in the eyes of Su, Dalan, and Xiaolan had already betrayed them. However, not far away, Lian Qingrong and the 8 maidservants' expressions did not change much. The successor of the Great Snow Mountain seemed to have not recovered from his defeat. He was in a daze, looking into the distance. The wounds on his body had not been treated. The 8 maidservants followed closely behind him, not daring to say anything. Do as you please. After a while, Du Xiaofu said to Su, Dalan, and Xiaolan. He was already wolfing down the food without holding back. It had been a long time since he had a good meal. Dongli Qingqing was already very familiar with the food and did not hold back. The fairy-like woman was now tainted by the world's smoke and fire. Dalan and Xiaolan looked at Su, drooling. Su also could not hold back. After the 3 women took a small bite, they did not pay much attention to their image. It tastes good. Do you want to try? Du Xiaofu came to Lian Qingrong's side. He gnawed on the barbecued meat hanging from the branch in his hand and handed a piece to Lian Qingrong with one hand. Our young master is not tainted by smoke and fire. It will harm his cultivation. A maidservant said to Du Xiaofu. Her tone was full of hatred, but it was clear that she was also afraid. However, as soon as the maidservant's voice fell, Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu, who was eating meat, with a bitter smile. Then she reached out and took the barbecued meat in Du Xiaofu's hand. She opened her mouth slightly and took a small bite. Her expression immediately changed. The taste is indeed not bad. It would be better if it was accompanied by some wine. Unfortunately, I drank all that I had on me, Du Xiaofu said. Wine. I have some on me. Lian Qingrong reached out and took out a white jade wine jar from her qianquan bag. She tore open the seal and the wine fragrance filled the air. It was definitely not an ordinary wine. Du Xiaofu did not hold back. He took it and drank it in large mouthfuls. Then he was surprised. This wine was even better than the one taken out by the rebel father, Jialo Changtian. He said, "Good wine. The best wine I have ever tasted. It is ranked second." Impossible. This wine was brewed by the ancestors of my snowy mountain using 10,000 years of snow and a secret recipe. It has been buried underground for at least 5,000 years. In the mortal world, it would be difficult to find an existence that can be compared to this wine. Lian Qingrong was moved. She did not believe that there was wine in the mortal world that could be compared to her wine. In terms of taste, it is indeed number one. However, for me, the best wine is the wine I drank with my drunkard father. The taste is not much, but it is very tasty. Du Xiaofu looked into the distance with a faint smile on his face. He then handed the wine jar to Lian Qingrong and said, "Do you want some too?" Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu, shook her head, and said, "No need, I still have some." With that, Lian Qingrong took out another jug and drank it in big gulps. The taste is not bad. You can try it. Du Xiaofu turned around and said to the 8 maidservants. The 8 maidservants were moved. The fragrance of the meat was really irresistible. They all looked at Lian Qingrong. "Go and try it. The taste is indeed not bad." Lian Qingrong turned around and said to the 8 maidservants. "Yes, young master." The 8 maidservants nodded. Only then did they leave. "How did you get the divine thunder cauldron?" Looking at the back of the 8 maidservants, Lian Qingrong asked Du Xiaofu. "If I say that the strongest cultivator gave it to me, would you believe me?" Du Xiaofu smiled. Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu for a while and then nodded. She said, "I believe you." "Then you won't feel wronged if you submit to me," Du Xiaofu said. "The catastrophe of the world is coming. According to the legend left behind by my master, you must gather the 9 cauldrons in order to have a chance to resist the catastrophe. Otherwise, this world will cease to exist and become a land of demons." Lian Qingrong looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "There are still 8 divine thunder cauldrons whose whereabouts are unknown. You must find them as soon as possible." Du Xiaofu was silent for a while and then asked Lian Qingrong, "Do you know what it means to gather the 9 cauldrons and command the 9 clans?" Chapter 1651. The 9 great families should be the current 9 great families. Yin Yang Zongheng, Nong Mo Mingfa, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and thousands of schools of thought. Only the 9 great families are still in existence. Rumor has it that as long as you gather the 9 great lightning cauldrons, you can command the 9 great families. Lian Qingrong said. "Gather the 9 great lightning cauldrons, you can command the 9 great families." Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. It was not much different from what he had imagined. Command the 9 great families, they were indeed the current 9 great families. "I'll submit to you, but I have to make it clear. It's just me, not the great snow mountain. If you want me to humiliate my sect, I'd rather die." Lian Qingrong took a sip of wine with a determined expression. "I understand." Du Xiaofu nodded. Above the Chenhuang mainland, people were still being sent out of the divine dominion by the life-saving talismans as usual. However, the number of people was still decreasing. "Old ancestor, this is bad. We've encountered Du Tingxian. He's killing legalism in there." Those who were brought out of the divine dominion by the life-saving talismans were brought to Li Qinfa, Qin Tianshi, and the other elders. Their eyes were trembling with fear. "You. What did you say? Du Tingxian? Did he recultivate?" Li Qinfa, Qin Tianshi, and the other legalism experts were shocked. Gong Sunhua and many other experts from the school of vertical and horizontal also looked over. Not only did Du Tingxian recultivate, but he's also achieved nirvana of the Grand Sovereign. We're no match for him. The legalism disciple was on the verge of tears. Facing Du Tingshuan's massacre, they were too miserable. He was lucky to have a life-saving talisman. Many people who did not had their life-saving talismans destroyed directly. What? Nirvana of the Grand Sovereign? Nirvana of the True Self? Say that again. Li Chunfa's expression changed. He could not believe his ears. Nirvana of the Grand Sovereign? Did Du Tingxian succeed? The school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the experts nearby all had sharp ears. They immediately heard the words, and their expressions changed. Old ancestor, that Du Tingxian is really a Nirvana Grand Supremacy. It's too terrifying. He has killed many of our people. Many of our protectors and elders have been killed. We are no match for that Du Tingxian. He is on a killing spree, showing no mercy to us. He even threatened to make us pay the price for legalism when he comes out. After being yelled at by Li Chunfa, the legalism disciple was still in a daze. His heart still had lingering fear, and he was on the verge of tears. His entire body was trembling. Du Tingxian, that bastard, really succeeded. When they heard this, the expressions of the elders from the legalism school changed. Their eyes all turned blood red, and the expressions of the people from the school of vertical and horizontal were not any better. A father and son grand supremacy, and Du Yunlong and Yi Piaoling, that kind of junior supremacy. What a desolate country. That Du Tingxian is worthy of being the demon king's father. What's the use of his son? As expected, his father is not bad. He crippled his own cultivation and recultivated in the divine domain. What kind of perseverance and determination is this? He did not disappoint the heavens. A Nirvana Grand Supremacy, reaching the heavens in a single step. It's over. Legalism is really miserable this time. In an instant, many experts in the surroundings began to discuss. They were deeply shocked. Chi, the divine domain was once again filled with a rain of light. In an instant, many figures descended. Among these figures were the disciples of the legalism school of vertical and horizontal, as well as many demon beasts and flood dragons. When these figures appeared, their hair was disheveled, and their eyes were lifeless. It was as if they had not yet reacted. Old ancestor, this is bad. The 18 celestial generals and Du Yunlong are together. They are working together to kill us, the people of the school of vertical and horizontal. Old ancestor, this is bad. Du Yunlong and the 18 celestial generals are slaughtering us. Someone said to Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, and the others in a trembling voice. Old ancestor, Du Yunlong and Yi Piaoling are attacking us dragons. A flood dragon said to Long Teng with a pale face. Bastard! When these voices were heard, the experts and ancestors of the legalism school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons all roared in anger. This is too tragic. Yi Piaoling and Du Yunlong plotted against us and led us into a desperate situation. Many people from our 3 families were killed. A woman cried. She had a life-saving talisman to escape the calamity, but others who did not have life-saving talismans were completely killed at this moment. The school of vertical and horizontal, dragons, and especially the experts of the legalism school of vertical and horizontal, had ashen faces after their anger. They originally wanted to completely kill Du Xiaofu and everyone around him in the divine dominion space and ruin the fortune of the small desolate country. However, they never expected that in the divine dominion space, not only Du Xiaofu, but all the young people of the desolate country were like dragons in the 4 seas and tigers in the forest. Each and every one of them was incomparably terrifying. On the contrary, the people of the 3 families were like sheep in front of them and were killed one after another. At this moment, the 3 families were not just injured, but their foundations were damaged. Their hearts, livers, spleens, lungs, and kidneys were injured. Where's Qin Wudi? Where's Gongsun Wuji? Where's Long San? The experts of the legalism school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons were unwilling to accept this. They still had peak experts inside. They were the most important people they had sent into the divine dominion space this time. I haven't seen them. I'm already thinking of ways to find them, but I don't know where they are. Uncle Wuji is in seclusion. He hasn't come out yet. Someone spoke up and informed the elders. Quick, do your best to find them and inform them to come out. Quick! An elder shouted. Right now, only Qin Wudi, Gongsun Wuji, and Long San could stop Du Yunlong, Du Xiaofu, and the others. Otherwise, the three families would truly be wiped out in the divine dominion space. It's over. If the disciples of the legalism school of vertical and horizontal do not seize the opportunity this time, it will affect the fortune of the legalism school in the future. Think of a way. We must think of a way. Otherwise, the fortune of our three families will be affected for countless years. This loss is too great. We must think of a way to stop all of this. The demon king and his son must not be left alive. The desolate country is already fully fledged. We must cut off their wings. Otherwise, when they come out, they will be a huge problem. Qin Tianshi, Gong Sunhua, Long Teng, and the others had complicated expressions. They looked at each other and discussed telepathically. At this moment, the situation was critical. The three families had almost lost a generation in the divine dominion space. Do you feel it? The seal on the entrance to the divine dominion space is weakening. My dragon soul has tested it. It is much weaker than before. Especially after the strange phenomenon earlier, the seal on the entrance to the divine dominion space weakened even more. If it weakens a little more, we may have a chance to enter. Long Ting's voice was transmitted to Gong Sunhua, Qin Tianshi, and Li Chenfa's ears. Hearing this, Gong Sunhua, Qin Tianshi, Li Chenfa, and the others were all secretly shocked. Their eyes lit up and brightened. The rise of the desolate country is unstoppable. It's too strong. There are only a few supremes. The father and son of a supremes are too terrifying. The surrounding experts were still discussing in secret as they sucked in a breath of cold air. The desolate country was indeed too strong. A family might not necessarily have a supremes, but the desolate country had a few. In the desolate country, there were still quite a number of young demonic beasts that could look down on their peers. A large group of young demonic beasts at the level of beast kings. Once they matured, they would become a truly terrifying force that could contend with any of the 9 great families. Qin Tianshi, Li Chenfa, and the others don't know what color their intestines are now. The Du family has 3 supremes now. It's hard to say if there will be more supremes in the future. It's said that Du Yu, Du Hao, and Du Shui are all extremely powerful. Some patriarch-level experts gasped. They were shocked by the desolate country. The Du family only has 2 supremes. You're underestimating the Du family. Old man Di Pai of the farmer's family said secretly, his eyes revealing a faint smile. Others might not know, but the farmer's family knew that the Du family had more than 2 Nirvana Supremes. They knew that the Du family had 1 more Supremes, who was not below the Demon King. Bang, 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 in the divine dominion space, in a deep valley, the sound of energy was endless. Blood dyed the valley red. It's too terrifying. The 18 celestial guards, Du Yunlong, and Du Xiaoman are massacring. They're specifically targeting people from the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. It's fine as long as the others don't provoke them. Outside the deep valley, many creatures had gathered and were discussing spiritedly. They were all shocked by the scene. Inside the divine valley, there were many figures attacking and massacring. Before long, over 100 people and many huge demonic beasts were slaughtered by dozens of people. Those dozens of people were Du Yunlong and the 18 celestial guards of the desolate country's peak peers. They shocked the surrounding creatures. Don't come over. If you kill me, my school of vertical and horizontal will not let you go. Inside the deep valley, the last disciple of the school of vertical and horizontal was limp on the ground. He no longer had a life-saving talisman. He was moving back quite a bit, dripping with blood. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear. His whole body was trembling. So what if you're from the school of vertical and horizontal? Kill! Yi Piaoling attacked. With a finger, faint black Xian Qi surged and condensed into a fingerprint. It killed him directly, turning him into a bloody mist and destroying his soul. Let's go. If we continue forward, we should not be far from the legendary Supreme Tomb. Du Yunlong came to Yi Piaoling's side and said, at that time, we should be able to meet third brother. Whoosh, whoosh, many figures flew into the sky and disappeared from the deep valley in a few flashes. Poor legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. The surrounding people exclaimed and lamented for the legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. Under the suppression of the desolate country, these three clans could no longer hold their heads high. In the vast clouds, there were towering trees everywhere in the ancient forest. The clouds were getting thinner and the visibility was getting clearer. The influence on Xian Qi and primordial spirit was also getting weaker. We're finally out. Many figures flew out from the ancient forest with joy in their eyes. We've finally made it out of this ancient forest. Du Xiaofu stretched and took a deep breath. He bathed in the sunlight. It had been a long time since he was bathed in sunlight. Under Yunmu's lead, the group safely made it out of the strange ancient forest. Master, not far ahead is the supreme tomb that you outsiders call it. Yunmu told Du Xiaofu. Chapter 1652. Supreme Tomb. What kind of place is that? Du Xiaofu asked. It sounded like an extraordinary place, so it definitely wasn't simple. It said that it's the place where the greatest fortune is hidden, but it's also the most dangerous place in the entire divine domain. It said that even supremes can easily be buried there, so it's called the Supreme Tomb. Lian Qingrong told Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Lian Qingrong and the 8 maidservants beside her had another life-saving talisman between their eyebrows. Naturally, they were all placed by Du Xiaofu. However, when Du Xiaofu placed the life-saving talismans for the 9 of them, Lian Qingrong, the 8 maidservants, Big Lan and Little Lan were all shocked as if they had seen a ghost. The greatest fortune, we must fight for it. Du Xiaofu's eyes were firm and resolute. Although he wasn't too interested in ordinary opportunities in the realm of the gods, it was only limited to inheritances. As for treasures, spiritual herbs, and other heavenly materials, Du Xiaofu had always been interested in them. And no matter what the greatest fortune in the divine domain was, Du Xiaofu didn't want to miss it, so he had to fight for it. Master, from here to the sovereign's tomb, we just need to cross over the myriad beast mountains. It's only a day's journey. That place is next to the sealed land. It has quite a few demon beast experts under its command, and its cultivation base is even stronger than mine. It's already at the beast realm and is of the same generation as my father and mother. It likes to eat humans for fun, but with me here, it shouldn't be a problem for us to pass through safely. Out of respect for my father and mother, it should at least give me some face. Yunmu said to Du Xiaofu, however, I'm afraid that Frozen will also enter the Supreme Tomb to fight for the fortune. There are also some other monster kings here. They won't miss out on this opportunity, and have always been fighting for it. It's good to reduce some trouble. Du Xiaofu said. Although he wasn't afraid of the beast domain level monsters, it was better to reduce some trouble as much as possible. I'll go first. Lian Qingrong said to Du Xiaofu. Alright, let's play it by ear. Du Xiaofu nodded. He had already discussed it with Lian Qingrong. After leaving this ancient forest, they would split up to fight for opportunities and act according to the situation. It could be considered that in this god domain where he had many enemies, there would be a secret helper. Maybe it would have an unexpected effect, and the time came. Lien Qingrong nodded and flashed through the sky with the 8 maidservants. I didn't expect you to be the demon king Du Xiaofu. You're so powerful. Even the successor of the great snow mountain was defeated by you. Xiao Lan's eyes widened as she watched Lien Qingrong and the others leave. Her gaze was filled with admiration. I already said that I'm the invincible god of war. Du Xiaofu wasn't embarrassed at all. Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu and said softly, be careful. When we reach the supreme tomb, I'm afraid we will encounter people from the dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. He understood what Dongli Qingqing meant. Legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, as well as dragons, there were still experts who hadn't shown up. Although most of the small fish and shrimps had been killed, those real experts still existed. Although they would be difficult to deal with, if they really killed those people completely, even compared to killing Han Ma and the others, it would be more painful for those old guys from legalism and the others. It's good to encounter them. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Even if he encountered them in the past, he wouldn't be afraid, let alone now that he had broken through to the Nirvana realm. At this moment, even if he were to encounter the strongest people from legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal, Du Xiaofu had great confidence that he could kill them. No matter how strong Qin Wudi and Gongsun Wuji were, they wouldn't be comparable to Lien Qingrong. This made Du Xiaofu a little excited. Since he encountered them, he would let legalism and the others be completely heartbroken. Let's go. After that, the few of them flew towards the Thousand Beast Mountain. Only after crossing the Thousand Beast Mountain could they reach the supreme tomb. Whoosh, whoosh, after Du Xiaofu and the others left, there were quite a number of figures flying out from the ancient forest. They were all following Du Xiaofu and the others from afar. Only then could they walk out smoothly. We're finally out. Figures flew out one after another, all of them were extremely excited. The mountains were continuous and lush, but there was also a kind of vigor and vastness. Roar, within the mountains, there were many demonic beasts howling and roaring that resounded through the void. This is too much. These ancient demonic beasts are too presumptuous. Humph, do they really think we're easy to bully? They're not putting us in their eyes at all. At the edge of the mountains, there were many ferocious demonic beasts that were entrenched in a straight line. Their huge bodies were like mountains that were lined up neatly. These demonic beasts looked ferocious with ferocious eyes. Their mouths were filled with the smell of blood, and their auras were extremely powerful. Thousands of figures gathered in the surroundings, and there were even many demonic beasts. However, at this moment, they were all blocked outside and couldn't take half a step forward. These thousands of figures weren't afraid of the ancient demonic beasts. They were all in the early stages of the martial domain realm and beast domain realm. They were stronger than the ancient demonic beasts. They didn't dare to take half a step forward. Instead, they saw many demonic beasts and human corpses hanging on the towering trees. Although the demonic beasts guarding the mountains weren't too strong, they knew that there were top experts of the ancient demonic beasts in the depths of the mountains. The many corpses hanging on the trees were proof. They were killing one as a warning to the others. Too presumptuous. This is simply bullying. Many people were furious and eager to give it a try. However, not many people dared to rush forward. They were furious, but also fearful. That white-robed youth was too strong. He forced his way through. If we knew, we would have followed him. I don't know what happened. The Myriad Beast King is inside. Maybe that guy has already been killed. It's rumored that the Myriad Beast King likes to eat humans. The stronger they are, the more he likes to eat them. Some people were discussing. Not long ago, a white-robed youth and 8 maidservants ignored the demonic beasts and forced their way through, killing many demonic beasts. However, they were hesitant at first and didn't dare to follow. At this moment, they couldn't help but feel regret. However, some people were still hesitant. The myriad beast king was inside. Maybe that white-robed youth had already been killed inside. The myriad beast king liked to eat the flesh of human experts the most. The myriad beast king has given the order. If you want to go, find the demon king Du Xiaofu first. Otherwise, don't even think about taking half a step past the myriad beast mountain. Trespassers will be killed without mercy. A demonic beast spoke. His voice reverberated in all directions. It was deafening. Bastard, where are we going to find the demon king Du Xiaofu? So what if we find the demon king Du Xiaofu? Legalism, school of vertical and horizontal, and dragons. So many people have died. That demon king Du Xiaofu is not someone we can provoke. Some people were filled with hatred. These ancient demonic beasts wanted to find the demon king Du Xiaofu. However, the demon king Du Xiaofu was definitely not someone they could provoke. Swish swish, in the distant sky, several figures flew down. They were Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, Yunmu, the woman surnamed Su, and the others who came out from the ancient forest. There are so many people in front. Are they waiting to deal with you? The woman surnamed Su looked at Du Xiaofu. She knew how many enemies Du Xiaofu had. She couldn't rule out the possibility that the demon king Du Xiaofu had lured them here. I don't have that many enemies. Du Xiaofu curled his lips. Miss Su might be right. You have a lot of enemies, especially here. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. She was already very familiar with the woman surnamed Su and the others. It seemed that it was easier for women to get to know each other. There was a smile on her fairy-like face. They seemed to be the subordinates of Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu is the one who sealed the mountain. Yunmu said. She recognized the many demonic beasts that occupied the mountain from afar. She also revealed a puzzled expression. Logically speaking, Du Xiaofu shouldn't have offended so many people who came in. Once these people rebelled, Du Xiaofu would have to pay the price with the help of some powerful people. Didn't I say they aren't my enemies? I don't provoke any hatred. How could I have so many enemies? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. However, after a while, when Du Xiaofu approached the crowd, he heard a lot of discussions. His expression was no longer good, and his face immediately turned gloomy. Demon King Du Xiaofu. That's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Following the appearance of Du Xiaofu, there were over 1,000 people who were blocked in front of the myriad beast mountain. Someone immediately recognized Du Xiaofu. That Demon King's ferocity was something that no one could forget after witnessing it. Swish swish, when someone recognized the Demon King Du Xiaofu, a group of gazes fell on Du Xiaofu and the others. Chapter 1653. It really is the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. More people recognized the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and cried out in surprise. Many cultivators who did not recognize the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, also looked at him curiously. Especially some of the women, who were surprised. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, who was rumored to be even more ferocious than the demonic beasts, did not seem to be as ferocious as the rumor said. Instead, he looked quite decent. However, when these women saw Dongli Qingqing, they were all overshadowed. They could not even feel jealous. Young Hall Master. A figure flew out and landed beside Du Xiaofu with a surprised look in his eyes. He was rather excited and surprised. There were only 2 people who flew out. They were Tao Yu and Wuma Sheng from the 7-star hall. They hid in the crowd. There were only 2 of them, and not many people recognized them. You guys are here too? Seeing Tao Yu and Wuma Sheng, Du Xiaofu was also surprised. Seeing that Wu Ma Sheng and Tao Yu did not have their life-saving talismans on their foreheads, he frowned slightly. We were defeated by the school of vertical and horizontal once. When we came in again, we were separated from everyone, Wu Ma Sheng said. Young Hall Master, the Myriad Beast King in the Myriad Beast Mountain ahead has sealed off the mountain. He said that he would only let everyone pass if he found you. That demonic beast is very strong, and no one is a match for him. Only a few people have passed through the seal, but I don't know if they are alive or dead inside, Tao Yu said. Hearing that, Yun Mu's face changed. Then, he said to Du Xiaofu, Master, do you want me to go look for Xingfeng? Maybe it will save us some trouble. No need. We will go in directly. I want to see who is looking for me. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with coldness. He did not know Xingfeng. At this moment, Xingfeng was looking for him everywhere, and even sealed off the mountain. Du Xiaofu did not think that things were as simple as they seemed. Then, Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, and the others approached the Myriad Beast Mountain. The people around them made way for them. The woman surnamed Su, Big Lon, and Little Lon weren't worried in the slightest. Even an exalt like Lien Qingrong had been defeated. Coupled with Dongli Qingqing's presence, why would they fear those ancient demon beast descendants? Human, do you want to die? When they saw Du Xiaofu and the others approaching, one of the snake-like demonic beasts in the lead opened its mouth. Its scarlet tongue flicked in and out as it stared down at Du Xiaofu. How dare you stop me? Yun Mu walked out and glared at the snake-shaped demonic snake. He growled and spat out his rat fangs. His gaze was cold and terrifying. Wolf Shrew King. The snake-shaped beast recognized Yun Mu. It was a little scared, but then it said, the Myriad Beast King has ordered that no one can step into the Myriad Beast Mountain. Wolf Shrew King, if you want me to go, I don't think the Myriad Beast King will stop you. But the human beside you can't. Do you really want to stop me? Yun Mu's face turned cold. This is the Myriad Beast King's order. Wolf Shrew King, do you want to provoke the Myriad Beast King? The snake-shaped beast shouted. With the Myriad Beast King behind it, it had nothing to fear. Squeak, Yun Mu let out a sharp squeak. The sound wave affected the primordial spirit. Its figure flashed out in an instant, turning into a white mist electric python. A terrifying power rippled out. Chi La, when the snake-shaped beast moved, it was too late to dodge. The defensive rune on its 7th inch was torn apart. The indestructible scales were torn open, revealing a bloody hole. Bang bang, Yun Mu's body drilled out from the other side of the snake-shaped beast. In the next moment, the snake-shaped beast's body shattered inch by inch. It was killed by Yun Mu. Awu, following Yun Mu's sudden attack, many demonic beast descendants in the surroundings roared. The sound shook the void, and countless demonic beasts moved sideways. However, these ancient demonic beast descendants were all afraid of Yun Mu. However, these demonic beasts were not afraid of Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, and the others. They directly pounced at them. Du Xiaofu's face darkened. With a wave of his sleeve, waves of golden talisman runes surged. Like a rock flapping its wings, a domineering and fierce aura erupted like a volcano, crushing and destroying everything. Bang bang bang, in an instant, many ancient demonic beast descendants were shattered. They had no power to resist. Go, Du Xiaofu did not stop. Golden light surged and crushed everything. Wherever his figure passed, the huge demonic beasts that pounced over were killed like birds with broken wings. All of their vitality was destroyed. Some of their bodies exploded, and a bloody mist poured out. So strong. Not far away, many people's eyes trembled as they watched the Demon King crush and destroy everything in his path. They were dumbfounded. Follow. Dongli Qingqing, Tao Yu, and the woman surnamed Su did not make a move. They directly followed behind Du Xiaofu and left. Awu, the ancient demonic beast descendants in the surroundings roared fiercely. Although their intelligence was not high, they had an innate fear and did not dare to chase. Let's charge over together. Some of those who were blocked finally could not bear it anymore. Their figures flashed out, wanting to forcefully charge over and follow behind the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Naturally, they would be able to gain a lot of benefits. However, they did not expect that the demonic beasts in the surroundings would quickly surround them. In an instant, they were surrounded in the middle. A woo, bang bang bang, in an instant, a shocking battle was unavoidable. They immediately collided. However, the people and some demonic beasts who were blocked did not suffer any losses. They even had the upper hand. However, many of the ancient demonic beast descendants did not have any intelligence, so they trapped them without any fear of death. Whoosh whoosh, in the mountains, several figures turned into rainbows and flashed across the sky like lightning. There is an icy aura. That guy Lien Qingrong has made a move here. In the air, Du Xiaofu said. He felt that there were traces left behind by Lien Qingrong. There were many demonic beast bloodstains and corpses around. From the traces, they were killed not long ago. The corpses were also frozen. There was no doubt that it was Lien Qingrong and her maidservant who made a move. Did that guy really submit to you? He originally wanted to make Miss Qingqing his maidservant. Xiao Lan said. He actually dared to touch my woman. Naturally, I can't let him go. However, after beating him up, I have vented my anger. I believe that he will not dare to do it again. Du Xiaofu said. Lien Qingrong was the successor of the Great Snow Mountain. The Great Snow Mountain was the follower of the Dragon God and the master of 3,000 worlds. He had to give some face to the Great Snow Mountain. After beating Lien Qingrong up, he did not hold back. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Dongli Qingqing did not say anything more at this moment. Anyway, she was already used to him calling her his woman. Moreover, in Tianhuang mainland, they were indeed together. Although that was an accident, it could not be changed. She also did not regret it. At this moment, they met again and walked together. As for what would happen in the future, she could only take one step at a time. She did not think too much about what her master had said to her before. Along the way, they encountered some demonic beast corpses from time to time, which allowed Du Xiaofu and the others to move forward very smoothly. With everyone's speed, 6 hours later, an exceptionally huge mountain appeared in front of them. The mountain was strange. It was surrounded by lush green, but the mountain was covered with rocks and was dark in color. The mountain peak towered into the clouds, looking imposing. The mountain was majestic and majestic. Master, in front of us is the lair of the parallel seal. It is also the only way to pass through the 10,000 Beast Mountain. There are many ancient formations and dangerous places in the surrounding mountains. This path is the safest, but it has always been occupied by the parallel seal. Yun Mu stood in front of the majestic mountain peak and said to Du Xiaofu from a towering mountain peak opposite it. Roar, just as Yun Mu and Du Xiaofu were standing on a mountain peak, a roar suddenly sounded from the dark mountain peak in front of them. Roar, soon after, the space in that area trembled, and the roars of quite a number of monsters swept out from the towering mountain. The tremors caused the entire space to tremble, and huge rocks crumbled and tumbled down from the mountain. The earth quaked and the mountain swayed. Who dares to trespass? You're courting death. There was a furious roar that sounded like thunder, as if it had been greatly provoked. Rumble, after which, many demonic beasts swept down from the majestic mountain peak in an overwhelming manner. In an instant, they covered the entire sky like a dark cloud as they moved horizontally over. In the lead was a huge demonic beast that was extremely strange. It was shaped like a swine and had 2 heads. Black runes flickered all over its body and it emitted a fierce and bloodthirsty aura. Beside that strange demonic beast was a ferocious bird that looked like a pheasant. It flew with its whiskers and spread its wings like a butterfly's. It could tear through space. There were pitch-black spatial cracks at the edge of the bird's wings. It would probably collapse space with a light flap. Roar, a deafening dragon roar sounded in all directions. A hornless dragon hovered in the air, its body floating in the air. Huge waves rippled in the surrounding space and its aura was monstrous. The auras of these three demonic beasts were especially terrifying. Behind them were many demonic beast experts, many of whom were even at the sealed domain level of the beast region. The parallel seal, Dang Hu, Chi Dragon. When Yun Zhan saw the three demonic beasts with extremely terrifying auras, his face instantly turned solemn. Three demonic beasts at the great domain level. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows slightly as he looked at the three leading demonic beasts in front of him. He could feel the monstrous aura coming from them, and his eyes were filled with surprise. They were actually demonic beasts that had reached the great domain level. Chapter 1654. What a terrifying aura. However, this lineup caused Tao Yu and Wuma Xing's expressions to change drastically. The aura of this group of ancient demonic beast descendants was extraordinarily strong. That ferocious aura caused them to be unable to summon the will to fight back. Master, Dang Hu and the Hornless Dragon are also here. They are also the kings of this place. I don't know why they have gathered together. Yun Mu said softly to Du Xiaofu. Dang Hu and the Hornless Dragon were of the same generation as her father and mother. They had also reached the great domain level and were not easy to deal with. Three great domain level evil beasts. They are very strong. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly revealed a desire to fight. He pursed his lips and said, "Subdue them and we will naturally know the reason." Three great domain level demonic beasts. They should have just attacked and are in a violent state. It is probably caused by Lian Qingrong. Dongli Qingqing sized up the three great domain level demonic beasts in the void before her. Her eyes were suffused with a faint green radiance. She said to Du Xiaofu, however, given Lian Qingrong's strength, these three demonic beasts are actually not injured. She must have known that these three demonic beasts are looking for you. It seems that she deliberately left them for you. Lian Qingrong is doing this on purpose. She is obviously unhappy because she has to submit to me. Du Xiaofu smiled. Lian Qingrong walked past them. These three demonic beasts were very strong, but they were not much of a threat to Lian Qingrong. At least, if they really fought, these three demonic beasts would not be so unharmed. The only possibility was that Lian Qingrong had forcefully walked past them and left them for him to deal with. This could be considered as appeasing the displeasure in her heart. At this moment, seeing the three demonic beasts so violent and furious, Du Xiaofu guessed that they were probably provoked by Lian Qingrong not long ago. With the cultivation strength of these three demonic beasts, it would not be a problem for them to block an ordinary great domain level expert. It would not even be difficult for them to kill them. However, in front of Lian Qingrong, who was at the peak of the Nirvana stage, they were undoubtedly not enough. Yun Jian, it's you. The demonic beast in the middle that looked like a swine, had a head at the front and back, and its entire body was covered in black runes. When it saw Yun Zun, its fierce eyes revealed a look of surprise. You're still my elder. For the sake of my father and mother, just surrender. Tell me, who told you to find my master? I beg my master to let you live. Yun Mu spoke, her scarlet eyes rippling. Although there were many demonic beasts here that frequently fought with each other, the 10,000 Beast Mountain was close to the Cloud Forest. When her parents were still alive, they had taken good care of her and had never made things difficult for her. Therefore, she was persuaded to surrender. Your master, hearing this, Bing Feng revealed a puzzled look, and his gaze swept over Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. The aptitude is not bad. I feel that the taste will definitely be very good. When his gaze swept past Du Xiaofu and the others, his eyes blazed with passion. Bing Feng, don't make a mistake. You're not my master's opponent. Yun Jian said. You actually recognized a human as your master. You don't deserve to be a king. From now on, everything you have will be mine. Bing Feng looked at Yun Jian with a cold gaze. No need to talk nonsense. Do it. These humans deserve to be killed. I'd rather kill 1,000 wrongly than let Du Xiaofu go. The horned dragon spoke, his fierce eyes revealing a murderous intent. You're looking for Du Xiaofu. Have you seen him before? Du Xiaofu looked helplessly at the horned dragon, Bing Feng, and Dang Hu. As long as they're humans, kill them all. There's no need to know them. They're all dead anyway. The horned dragon spoke, his eyes looking down at Du Xiaofu with a cold sneer, as if he was looking at an ant. Do you have the strength to do so? Just now, someone swaggered off in front of you. You can't even stop him. Du Xiaofu curled his lips. From the aura left behind in the surroundings, he knew that Lian Qingrong had just passed by here. Wu, hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Bing Feng, the horned dragon, and Dang Hu's expressions suddenly turned gloomy. There were indeed people who left just now, and there were 9 of them. That white-robed human was too strong. Even if they joined forces, they couldn't stop him. Even Dang Hu, who was known for his speed, couldn't catch up. At this moment, the 3 beasts were furious. When they heard Du Xiaofu's words, they were undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. Looking at the 3 beasts in the void ahead, Dongli Qingqing's eyes flickered. Then, she looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I'll deal with one. Don't be too harsh. I want them alive. Du Xiaofu specifically reminded Dongli Qingqing, afraid that Dongli Qingqing would kill them. Master, I can block any one of them for a while. Yun Jian also spoke. She knew that her cultivation was inferior to Bing Feng's, but it wouldn't be a problem for her to block them for a while. No need. Leave the rest to me. You can block them for a while. When Du Xiaofu finished speaking to Yun Jian, he condensed 2 life-saving talismans and placed them between Tao Yu and Wuma Xing's eyebrows. He was afraid that something would happen to them. Life-saving talismans, in an instant, Tao Yu and Wuma Xing were stunned. They were even more shocked than when they saw the large group of ancient beasts in front of them. Ignorant humans, you're courting death. Hearing that the humans in front of them didn't take them seriously at all, Bing Feng and the other beasts were already filled with murderous intent. Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, Dang Hu was the first to move. He flapped his wings and the void around him emitted a pitch-black light. Then, he disappeared from where he was. The moment Dang Hu disappeared, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Almost at the same time, the golden light under his feet flashed and he took a big step back. Swish! When Du Xiaofu's figure had just retreated, the space where he was just a moment ago began to fluctuate. A wing tore through the void like the sharpest blade. Dazzling runes shot out like blade light and sword shadows, and pitch-black cracks appeared in the void one after another. Eh! In the air, Dang Hu let out a cry of surprise, as though he was shocked that his attack had missed. After which, fluctuations appeared in the air as his gigantic body lunged out. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying light as he flashed through the air with lightning speed. With a twist of his body, he slashed out with his other wing, sweeping towards Du Xiaofu with great speed. Bastard! This time, Du Xiaofu didn't retreat. Instead, he moved forward. In an instant, golden light erupted and a powerful aura surged. It was as if a peerless ferocious beast was about to soar into the sky. Facing Dang Hu's wing, Du Xiaofu shook his arm and threw out a punch. His aura was domineering and looked down on everything. Ao! Ao! This punch was accompanied by the roar of a dragon and the cry of a divine elephant. Accompanied by the appearance of lightning and thunder in the sky, the space in front of the fist exploded. It directly collided with the wing that had cut through the void. Bang! The low and deep collision instantly resounded through the void. Monstrous energy instantly erupted. Waves of extremely terrifying energy-ruined ripples swept through the void like a tsunami. It was as if they were about to destroy everything. Golden light erupted, causing the space to vibrate and churn endlessly. Gee! In the instant of contact, Dang Hu let out a miserable shriek. The runes on his wing were smashed into smithereens. His wing cracked and blood poured out. His incomparably sharp wing had been smashed apart by a single punch. Suffering heavy injuries, his body lost its balance and fell from the sky. Dang Hu's speed was as fast as lightning. All of this happened too quickly, causing Dang Hu and the hornless dragon to be unable to recover from their shock. Swish, but at the same time, Dongli Qingqing took action. Her beautiful figure was covered in resplendent green light. Runes flickered as she attacked the strange Dang Hu. It's your turn. Du Xiaofu traversed through the void. He wasn't far to begin with. In an instant, he arrived in front of the hornless dragon. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Ao. The hornless dragon was a demonic beast at the Great Domain stage. It possessed an ancient bloodline and was definitely an expert among experts. It instantly recovered from its shock. Without any hesitation, its huge body soared into the sky. Using all its strength, it ferociously spat out a hornless dragon breath. Ao. The dragon breath flickered and turned into a dragon-shaped illusory figure. It let out a dragon roar and carried a dragon's might. Accompanied by resplendent and terrifying runes, it instantly pierced through the void and charged towards Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu's eyes turned cold. Mysterious golden runes were released from his eyes. The golden-winged Dangpeng shadow behind him shone with boundless golden light as he activated the Dangpeng descends to the 9 heavens. Golden light bloomed in the sky. Du Xiaofu was like a real golden-winged Dangpeng descending. Carrying a domineering will, he flapped his wings and swept across the sky. A terrifying supreme beast's might swept out. With a claw, he tore apart the void. The Dangpeng chaos-shattering claw easily tore apart the giant dragon illusory figure. Rumble. Rumble. The aura of the rock descending to the 9 heavens was released, causing it to seem as if thunder was rumbling in midair. Dazzling golden light burst forth from the talisman markings, and the light was gorgeous like fireworks. However, the shocking and overbearing pressure contained within it caused the surrounding space to tremble. Countless ancient demonic beast species trembled under the great pressure, and they roared and hissed endlessly. Boom! Du Xiaofu soared into the sky. His hair fluttered behind his back. There was an indescribable domineering and disdainful aura. His might distorted the surrounding void as he blasted out a palm. This palm was the condensation of the 3 seals obtained from the mysterious 4-elephant seal. The resplendent tricolored light was dazzling. It was also as powerful as a thunderbolt and directly landed on the head of the suppressed Qi dragon. Bang! Under this palm, the Qi dragon's body shone brightly. The dragon scales on its head shattered layer by layer and dragon blood spurted out from its hideous mouth. Roar! The Qi dragon screamed miserably as its body fell to the mountain peak below. The peak of the mountain was destroyed. The rocks cracked and poured down in torrents. The entire mountain shook and cracked. Roar! At the same time, a mysterious seal covered Du Xiaofu's palm. It emitted the roars of dragons, phoenixes, lions, and tigers. However, a strange golden lightning arc and the shadow of a golden-winged Dangpeng appeared. The silver-yellow lightning arc flickered and a monstrous pressure spread from it. It contained a pressure that no beast could resist. Blood Soul Seal. Blood Soul Seal. Du Xiaofu's figure rushed down. Accompanied by the pressure of the supreme beast, he turned into a ball of golden light. This strange seal landed directly between the Qi dragon's eyebrows. At the same time, the Qi dragon's eyes were filled with fear. That terrifying pressure made its dragon soul tremble. That was the descent of the supreme beast. Its whole body trembled and was completely suppressed. Then, its eyes closed involuntarily. Chapter 1655. As Du Xiaofu's hand seals continued to condense, silver-gold runes entered the hornless dragon's glabella one after another. A terrifying pressure spread out, causing the numerous ancient demonic beasts in the surroundings to not dare to approach. They all prostrated themselves in fear. The heavily injured Dang Hu rose into the air once again and pounced towards Du Xiaofu. The runes on his body burned brightly, and the might caused the void to shatter continuously. Buzz, just as Dang Hu was about to pounce, a green light suddenly shot out from Du Xiaofu's body. In an instant, it turned into hundreds of saber lights that cut through the void. Wind and thunder rumbled as they formed a saber array that contained the mysteries of the 9 palaces. The illusionary saber array trapped Dang Hu within. The saber lights that cut through the void immediately cut off Dang Hu's other intact wing, causing it to bleed and cry out miserably. Roar! Dang Hu roared. His 2 ferocious heads spewed out terrifying air waves that could shatter the void. His fangs were sharp and could pierce through the void. The black runes on his body soared into the sky. Bang! 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 However, in front of Dongli Qingqing, Dang Hu did not have the slightest advantage. Instead, he was suppressed and kept howling. He was unable to injure Dongli Qingqing at all. His vitality was still being devoured by the bright green light around Dongli Qingqing. However, Dongli Qingqing was unable to do anything to Dang Hu in a short period of time. It was enough to show that this ancient demonic beast was not ordinary. Master. In the void, the hornless dragon opened his fierce eyes once again. The pair of dragon eyes had lost their ferocity and killing intent and had become obedient. A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face as he said to the hornless dragon, "Suppress Dang Hu." Roar! The hornless dragon roared and unleashed its aura. Along with its dragon's might, it immediately suppressed Dang Hu without hesitation. Bastard, hornless dragon, are you being controlled by someone? Dang Hu roared and howled. Its 4 fierce eyes revealed a look of shock. It was already suppressed by a human, but the hornless dragon was not inferior to it. At this moment it was in an even more difficult situation. Dang Hu hissed as he erupted with his full strength and utilized a secret technique to tear apart space. A large expanse of space was minced into pieces as runes shot into the sky. His beast body struggled free from the space, and he actually escaped from the illusory saber formation. However, his entire body was dripping with blood, and his wings were completely shattered. He was like a fishing net that was torn apart, and he was extremely miserable. Roar! At the same time, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared like a ghost. A resplendent golden-winged rock image accompanied by silver-yellow lightning arcs descended, bringing with it the roar of dragons, phoenixes, lions, and tigers, causing the beast soul in Dang Hu's mind to tremble. His entire body trembled as he was completely suppressed. Blood Soul Seal. Du Xiaofu forcibly set up the Blood Soul Seal again, and it directly landed on the glabella of Dang Hu, who was almost stunned by the absolute suppression. The strange palm print of the golden-winged rock image, accompanied by the supreme beast pressure, turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared between Dang Hu's eyebrows. This was Du Xiaofu forcibly setting up the Blood Soul Seal, which would be resisted by the beast soul with all its strength. If there was a mistake, the beast soul of the beast would be shattered, and he would also be greatly affected. His primordial spirit would be injured, and in the worst case, he would be possessed by the devil. Forcibly setting up the beast-controlling technique and activating the Blood Soul Seal required the support of a strong primordial spirit. It also required a good attainment in the Blood Soul Seal, which was much more difficult than killing a beast of the same level. The stronger the beast's cultivation, the smaller the chance of forcibly setting up the Blood Soul Seal in its mind. It was definitely not a simple matter. However, Du Xiaofu could do it. The strength of his primordial spirit was not inferior to the strength of his physical body. At this moment, the nirvana cultivation of his nirvana true self was also supporting him. In whose mind, the beast soul and the hornless dragon roared and resisted with all their might. However, a bright golden light exploded in his mind at this moment. The shadow of a golden-winged great rock appeared in his mind with a strange handprint. It carried with it electric arcs and a monstrous aura of a supreme being swept across the sky, directly imprisoning his beast soul. After struggling for a while, the beast soul of Dang Hu, which was extremely resistant, finally began to be tamed. After a while, when Dang Hu opened his fierce eyes again, the fierceness in his eyes had disappeared. He became extremely docile and respectful. Looking at Du Xiaofu, he said, "Greetings, master." Du Xiaofu was very satisfied. With a smile on his face, the illusory saber formation around him was abstruse. Then, he kept it in his palm. At this moment, in the void not far away, countless ancient beasts were trembling and did not dare to get close to the battle. Under the suppression of Dongli Qingqing in the hornless dragon, Dang Hu was already dripping with blood. It was a tragic sight. Chi. Du Xiaofu's figure swept across the sky and appeared on top of Dang Hu's ferocious head. He used the beast-controlling technique and the blood-soul seal to suppress Dang Hu. However, what surprised Du Xiaofu was that Dang Hu's two heads were very strange. There were actually two beast souls and they could be divided into two. At the last moment, Dang Hu actually had a beast soul escape from his physical body and wanted to escape. "Master, be careful of Dang Hu's beast soul," Yun Mu reminded Du Xiaofu. "Go back." Du Xiaofu suppressed it. Under Yun Mu's reminder, he had already made preparations. Otherwise, the beast soul of Dang Hu would have escaped. "Master." In the end, Dang Hu submitted and stood in front of Du Xiaofu meekly. The hornless dragon and Dang Hu's two huge beast shadows turned into two elderly men and Dang Hu's beast body turned into an elderly woman. The three beast kings were controlled and the ancient beasts around them were trembling and submitting. This scene made Tao Yu and Wuma Sheng unable to recover from their shock for a long time. There were many ancient caves on the dark, lofty mountain. Inside the caves, there were deep valleys and different worlds. Many ancient and huge palaces could be seen. This was Dang Hu's lair. It should have been an ancient mountain gate in the past. However, it was later occupied by Dang Hu and he became the king of this mountain. "Master, Dang Hu asked us to do this. He said that he wanted to find the demon king, Du Xiaofu." Dang Hu told the truth. Dang Hu was the one who asked them to do this. Dang Hu. Yun Mu's expression changed when he heard this. His eyes were filled with fear and dread. Dang Hu? Du Xiaofu was still confused. He did not seem to be familiar with Dang Hu, so he would not attack him for no reason. "Master, the Mirage Dragon King is a Mirage Dragon with the bloodline of a true dragon. It's the strongest monster king here. 1,000 years ago, there were two other top monster kings who could keep it in check. However, 1,000 years ago, the two monster kings tried to break through the domain but were suppressed by the space here. Both of them were severely injured and managed to survive. Since then, they have been living in seclusion. Hence, the Mirage Dragon King became the first monster king here," said Yun Mu. "Why is Dang Hu looking for me?" Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and asked Dang Hu, and the hornless dragon. "Master, Dang Hu is looking for the demon king, Du Xiaofu, not master," Dang Hu said. "Master is the demon king, Du Xiaofu, that you are looking for." Yun Mu scolded Dang Hu and the other two. "What? Master is the demon king, Du Xiaofu?" Dang Hu and the other two were shocked. "Master, the Mirage Dragon King is with a member of the dragon clan called Long San. It was Long San who told the Mirage Dragon King to look for Master. Once he sees Master, he should inform them, said the hornless dragon. Long San. Du Xiaofu's clear eyes flashed with golden light. He finally knew the reason. Dragons, Long San. There was no need to explain. Where is Long San now? Du Xiaofu was interested. Master, Long San and Dang Hu have already gone to the Supreme Tomb. They found many beast kings here and are looking for Master. We are just one of them, Dang Hu said. So they are not sure if Master will pass by here, so they did not stay for long. They only asked us to guard the mountain and search for Master. We were supposed to go to the Supreme Tomb to meet up with Dang Hu and wait for the tomb to open. Dongli Qingqing had been frowning. She suddenly asked Dang Hu and the others, "Did you inform Long San and Dang Hu just now?" "We did not know Master before, so we did not inform him. We were only looking for Master," Dang Hu said. Dongli Qingqing glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "If we inform Lien Qingrong to come back, we can lure Long San here and kill him. But we don't know how strong Dang Hu is. There's no need to go through so much trouble to avoid wasting time. Let's meet in front of the Paragon Tomb. I really want to see how many trump cards Long San has prepared for me. The dragon race isn't afraid of heartache, so why should I be polite?" Du Xiaofu's eyes were cold as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1656. We might encounter experts from the School of Legalism and School of Vertical and Horizontal in front of the Sovereign's tomb. If we fight, we might not be able to gain much of an advantage. Dongli Qingqing said. Don't worry, we won't be at a disadvantage either. Du Xiaofu smiled. Little Xingxing, Qi Yeshi, Su Muxin, Jialo Kailing, and Jialo Jueyu should be in front by now. Even if there were people from the School of Legalism and School of Vertical and Horizontal, they wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Moreover, Du Xiaofu didn't believe that only the dragons were present, since the School of Legalism and School of Vertical and Horizontal and the dragons had long joined forces. There were traces of the School of Vertical and Horizontal behind them. That battle was unavoidable. Of course, Du Xiaofu never thought of letting off the remaining people from the School of Legalism, Dragons, and School of Vertical and Horizontal in the Divine Domain. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to find them. Now that they wanted to jump out, there was no need to be polite. Okay. Seeing Du Xiaofu's confident look, Dongli Qingqing didn't say anything more. She knew that this guy also had allies in the Divine Domain. Du Xiaoyao and the golden-winged great rocks were already terrifying enough. The vast ancient square was extremely majestic. It was surrounded by mountains in the distance, making people appear extremely small. Even if a huge demonic beast appeared in the square, it wouldn't cause too much of a visual impact. The square was mottled, and there were many cracks on the ground. There were countless traces of swords and sabers. It was obvious that this place had experienced many shocking battles, but it wasn't destroyed. Around the square, there were many people gathered. There were groups of 30 to 50 people, and there were also groups of 70 to 80 people. There were even dozens of people gathered together, but they were scattered and vigilant of each other. Some of these people were looking around, and some were recuperating and adjusting their breathing. They seemed to be waiting for something. In the center of the square, there were many huge and uneven stone platforms. There were a total of 10 stone platforms, all of them ancient, without any signs of repair. The gigantic rock, which covered an area of over 10,000 feet, was like a small star that was shot down by someone, and was finally cut into 4 pieces. There were many figures standing on a stone platform. A man in a black battle robe glanced at the living beings in the distance. There was some contempt and disdain in his eyes. However, he did not look down on the figures gathered on the stone platforms. He was even a little wary of them. That young man is not weak. He should have some background. There was a handsome middle-aged man in dark green armor beside the man in black battle robes. He looked at the young man in white battle robes who was surrounded by 8 beautiful maidservants on a stone platform to the side and said, intentionally or otherwise, he should be the legendary successor of the great snow mountain, Lian Qingrong. A declining sect. Perhaps after the opening of the divine plane this time, the great snow mountain will no longer exist in this world, the man in black said. Hearing this, the eyes of the middle-aged man in battle robes flickered. The armor on his body was very strange. It seemed to be made up of pieces of scales, and they were reverse scales, which made the armor very special. Occasionally, it would shine with light. Then, he looked at the man in black battle robes and said softly, "This is the last chance. From now on, everything here will disappear. Don't worry, we dragons will do what we promised you. You are also one of us dragons. When the time comes, we will take you out at all costs," the man in black battle robes said. The man in reverse scale armor looked at the void in the square. His eyes flickered with the light of scales, and he said, "If we get the legendary greatest opportunity, we may have the opportunity to break through the limits of this divine plane and walk out of the world. We will no longer be restrained here. If you and I work together, who here can be our enemy? When the supreme tomb opens, we will be able to fight for the greatest opportunity." The eyes of the man in black battle robes began to become fierce. His voice gradually became gloomy, and he said, "But before that, we must find that bastard Du Xiaofu and tear him to pieces. Only then can the hatred of us dragons be quenched. Is that Du Xiaofu really as strong as the rumors say? But a Nirvana Grandmaster is indeed rare," the middle-aged man in battle armor said. "No matter how strong he is, that bastard must die this time." The voice of the man in black battle robes was extremely gloomy. Murderous intent surged, and he said, "Qin Wudi of legalism and Gongsun Wuji of the school of vertical and horizontal have yet to appear. Humans are indeed unreliable. It's just a human. A Nirvana Grandmaster is very strong, but after all, he is only at the Nirvana realm. There is no need to surround and kill him." The middle-aged man in battle armor was somewhat indifferent. Although he knew that a Nirvana Grandmaster was very strong, there was a limit to how strong a Nirvana Grandmaster could be. "That kid is very strange, and the school of Yin Yang, school of Moism, and the school of agriculture don't know what's good for them. This time, we can't make any more mistakes. If that kid doesn't die in the tomb, then he'll definitely come back. The tomb will be his death. Being able to die in front of the tomb is already a blessing for him. It's a great honor for him to be honored." The face of the man in black battle robes was gloomy. His voice was gloomy, and it was filled with anger and killing intent. He had already received news that Dragon 4, Dragon 6, and the others had all been killed. Including Dragon 9, he had already lost 5 of his brothers to that brat. Dragon 5 had also died at the hands of Du Yunlong from the desolate country. How could he not be angry? Whoosh whoosh, as time passed, from all directions, silhouettes landed one after another, and all of them attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Whoosh whoosh, in mid-air, the void was suffused with divine light and strange movements appeared. Rumble, in a short period of time, strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, causing the void to begin to boil. The might of the heavens was vast, and it shook the surroundings. On a mountain peak, a graceful figure appeared, and a divine ring appeared from within her body. Then, a second ring appeared, and a total of 3 divine rings appeared, as if divine flames were burning. When the 3 divine rings appeared in the sky, a light beam of energy from the heavens and the earth seemed to have transcended time and space, and it enveloped the beautiful figure within it. "It's that little girl who is breaking through to the half-step Nirvana realm. It will be a great merit if we bring her back." In the mountains, many silhouettes appeared. They were all covered in robes and hats, and their gazes were frightening. "It's you bastards who hide your heads and show your tails again. Kill! A green light suddenly spread out and enveloped the sky. It was a cluster of green flames, and a sparkling red flame rose. Screech, when the sparkling green flames rose and were released into the void, a loud screech immediately spread out. The green flames were like a green sun, and a giant bird that was thousands of feet in size soared out. This giant bird had gorgeous tail feathers that were covered in green runes. It was moving, and when it spread its wings, it was agile and majestic, showing the aura of a supreme beast. It was a green Luan. Green Luan, one of the phoenixes. Among the 5 phoenixes, the red ones were the main phoenixes, the yellow ones were the Taowu, the purple ones were the Taowu, the green ones were the Taowu, and the white ones were the swan. This green Luan was one of the 5 phoenixes. It's this evil beast again. It will be of great use if we capture it alive. Strange silhouettes swept out, and as they spoke, waves of demonic aura swept out, accompanied by lightning and thunder, and instantly besieged the green Luan. That girl is breaking through, and she is at her weakest. Lay down a demonic seal, and we can take her away. A silhouette spoke, and directly swept towards the beautiful figure who was breaking through. Don't you dare touch Sister Xingyu. The green Luan screeched, and its full strength erupted. It opened its mouth and spewed out countless green flames, which turned into countless sharp green flaming sword rays. They whistled through the void, and forced a few strange silhouettes to retreat. Some of them were seriously injured. This green Luan is not ordinary. Lord Moksha has ordered that this girl cannot be left alive. If we can't capture her, we will kill her. Let's kill this green Luan first. A silhouette revealed a cold look in his eyes, and he attacked with all his might. He threw out a punch, and his fist was surrounded by demonic aura with electric arcs. It exploded with a destructive and gorgeous light, and it collided with the green Luan. The green Luan tore the fist with its claws, and it turned into a dazzling rain of light. Rumble, however, at the same time, more than 10 silhouettes swept towards the green Luan at the same time. They were as fast as lightning, and their demonic aura was monstrous, accompanied by lightning and thunder. You are courting death by touching my phoenixes. Suddenly, a clear voice came from far away in the void. At the same time as this clear voice rang out, surging purple flames seeped into the void. The surging purple flames were like a purple sun that blotted out the sky, descending with terrifying heat. Monstrous energy swept out and shook half the sky. Rumble. The ground was destroyed, and huge cracks appeared in the mountains, and the mountain peaks collapsed in torrents. Bang, 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 the rolling purple flames covered the sky and swept across the sky, and it was as if a purple sun had erupted. It could destroy everything, and it had a supreme heavenly might. Those strange silhouettes were instantly crushed by the purple flames. Everything happened in an instant. The monstrous purple flames in the void then retracted, and the graceful figure of a beautiful woman appeared. Her fingers were slender, and her skin was smooth. There was a faint purplish gold color in her snow-white skin, and her eyes were like purple suns, as if they could see through everything in the world. Chapter 1657. The huge body of the blue phoenix flickered with light, and then it turned into a young girl in green clothes. She was only 16 or 17 years old. Her white and flawless skin revealed a faint pink color. She had curved eyebrows and long eyelashes. Her clear and bright eyes gathered together with a faint green light, and her thin lips were delicate and tender like rose petals. You are from my clan. Qing Luan looked at the beautiful girl. Her eyes rippled. Her aura was mysterious and supreme. You are not old, but your cultivation has already reached the beast region. Your talent is extraordinary. The beautiful woman looked at Qing Luan and smiled. Her waist was slender, and her limbs were long. She had the temperament of a fairy. She wore a purple dress, and the purple flame was indistinct. She looked like an otherworldly being. You are from the Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix clan, said Qin Luan. Yes. The beautiful woman nodded. Then, she raised her head slightly and looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky. A smile appeared on her beautiful face as she said, so it's that girl who is half a step away from the Nirvana realm. You know Sister Xingyu? Qin Luan looked at the beautiful girl in surprise. I know her and I know you. It's just that you don't know me. The beautiful girl's voice was like the sound of nature. She was Zixuan. When Du Xiaofu was undergoing nirvana, she had felt a familiar aura. Now, she recognized it. Sister Zixuan. Many figures flew down from the sky. The one in front was a beautiful girl. Her body was graceful. Her lips were like cherry blossoms. She was Huang Ling, of the Phoenix clan. Beside her, there were a few young men and women. They all had outstanding auras. The men were handsome and ethereal. The women were dignified and noble. Half a step into the Nirvana stage. She has stepped into the Nirvana stage. Huang Ling, looked at the girl in the sky. Her colorful eyes rippled. Then, she looked at Qin Luan and smiled. I didn't expect someone from my clan to be here. Huff huff, many figures were sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak, meditating and adjusting their breathing. It was Du Xiaofu and the rest who were traversing the 10,000 Beasts mountain. However, there was now the addition of the hornless dragon, parallel seal, and Donghu's 3 beasts in human form. There were some dangerous places in the 10,000 Beast mountains that had been scouted by the joint seal, so there would not be many opportunities. This was also the border of the joint seal, allowing Du Xiaofu to safely pass through the 10,000 Beast mountains. Qi, the desolate ancient space flew out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows as a familiar figure walked out and stretched his back. The inverted triangular eyebrows on his face and the wretched expression in his eyes did not change much. Brother Qin Chun. Du Xiaofu smiled and stood up. The figure in front of him was none other than his big brother, Zhen Qingchun. I've benefited a lot. However, I can't compare to the talent of you youngsters. Zhen Qingchun smiled. After killing the dragons, legalism, and a large number of other creatures, he took the 6 will blood-killing array and went into seclusion in the desolate ancient space. He had benefited greatly. Although he could not become a supreme again under the mysterious effect of the desolate ancient space, the benefits he had gained were already incomparably shocking. No one can say for sure on the path of cultivation. One doesn't have to be a supreme nirvana to go further. I think that among the predecessors, there were some who did not become a supreme nirvana but could still become a top expert. Du Xiaofu said. Half of his words were comforting Zhen Qingchun, and the other half was telling the truth. The supreme nirvana was just a kind of nirvana. For example, the human sovereign heavenly talent and the human sovereign heavenly talent. Who could guarantee that the human sovereign heavenly talent would not go further on the path of cultivation than the human sovereign heavenly talent? Talent was an important factor, but the true foundation of cultivation was still one's own body. Yes, one's own body. Du Xiaofu seemed to have thought of something all of a sudden, and a flash of inspiration appeared in his mind. He had been thinking about whether he could make further progress on the nirvana stage of the Greater Supreme. However, the true foundation of cultivation lay in one's own body. One's own strength was true strength. Are you comforting me? Zhen Qingchun raised his eyebrows and interrupted Du Xiaofu's contemplation. His inverted triangular eyes were still as wretched as before. However, the charm of his eyes was getting more and more like he had achieved the Tao. Do you want to continue? We're almost at the Supreme Tomb. Dongli Qingqing stopped her breathing and got up to Du Xiaofu's side. When she saw Zhen Qingchun, her eyes glowed with a beautiful radiance and she nodded slightly. You've already met him. This is my sworn elder brother. Du Xiaofu introduced Dongli Qingqing to Zhen Qingchun. He took Dongli Qingqing's slender hand and looked at Zhen Qingchun. He smiled and said, you've also met him. Dongli Qingqing hesitated for a moment. She looked at Du Xiaofu and quietly broke free from his hand. She bowed and said to Zhen Qingchun, "Greetings, brother Qingchun. I've long heard of you." This, Zhen Qingchun was naturally familiar with Dongli Qingqing. At this moment, when he saw Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing, he understood what was going on. His inverted triangular eyes turned and he took out a pill that was filled with rich energy from his Qianquan bag and handed it to Dongli Qingqing. He said, "You've already called me brother Qingchun. I don't have anything good on me and I'm poor. This pill is not bad. If sister-in-law doesn't mind, please accept it. Treat it as a gift to change the way you address me." Brother Qingchun, Dongli Qingqing was stunned. Her gaze changed greatly and she suddenly felt as if she had fallen into a trap. Her charming cheeks immediately flushed red. It's brother Qingchun's kind intentions. Just accept it. Du Xiaofu chuckled. Dongli Qingqing took the pill from Zhen Qingchun's hand and stood beside Du Xiaofu. She secretly pinched Du Xiaofu's arm. "Ah!" Du Xiaofu cried out in pain, causing Tao Yu, Wu Ma Sheng, Yun Mu, De Lan, and Xiao Lan to look over curiously. "It's nothing. I'm just informing everyone that it's time to set off. We'll be arriving at the sovereign tomb soon. Be careful." Du Xiaofu pretended as if nothing had happened and said to everyone, "Master, Long San and the Hui Dragon King should already be there." Tong Feng, Yun Mu, Dang Hu, and the others all stood up and went to Du Xiaofu's side. They looked at the end of the mountain range with ripples in their eyes. "Dragons will be the last one to come in. Long San, right?" Du Xiaofu looked at the end of the mountain range and licked his dry lips. A chill flashed through his eyes. Chapter 1658. As for the Supreme Tomb, Du Xiaofu learned a few things from Parallel Seal and the others. It was the place with the greatest lucky chances in the entire divine domain. Everything in the space of the God domain was biased towards geniuses and supremes. However, inside the Supreme Being tomb, even Supreme Beings could easily die inside. Even Supreme Beings would lose their protection and advantages. One could see just how dangerous and terrifying this place was. However, in the end, everyone would gather at the center of the divine domain for the Supreme Tomb. Strictly speaking, everyone was here for the treasures in the sovereign tomb. There was a rumor in the world that the strongest treasures in the divine domain were all in the Supreme Tomb. There was absolutely nothing to be surprised about if there was a saint artifact in there. There were also other benefits that were unimaginable to ordinary people. It was said that as long as one obtained a little bit of benefit in the Supreme Tomb, it would be enough for one to move unhindered in the world. I think Du Xiaoyao, Little Green, and Little Tiger should be arriving at the Supreme Tomb soon. Thinking about Du Xiaoyao, Little Qing, and the others, the coldness on Du Xiaofu's face disappeared and was replaced by a smile. He was afraid that all the remaining people in the divine domain would gather in the Supreme Tomb. That would be the true gathering of heroes. Geniuses would gather and supreme beings would run amok. At that time, if one didn't have a bit of strength, not to mention fighting for the opportunities in the Supreme Tomb, one wouldn't even be able to enter. Legalism's Qin Wudin school of vertical and horizontals Gongsun Wuji should also appear. The Supreme Tomb was the final place of fortune. The last experts of the legalism and Zongheng family would definitely appear. Du Xiaofu sneered. If he encountered the legalism, Zongheng family, and Long San's group, there was no need to be polite. Even if Long San, Hui Dragon King, Qin Wudi, and Gongsun Wuji were all together, Du Xiaofu reckoned that as long as he gathered Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and the others, he would have nothing to fear. As long as it was a one-on-one fight, Du Xiaofu gently clenched his fists under the sleeves of his battle robes. As long as he had the opportunity, he should be able to completely kill Long San, Qin Wudi and the rest. Xiao Jing, drunkard dad, are you guys going to show up too? Du Xiaofu murmured. He had already confirmed that his drunkard father and Xiao Jing were both in the divine domain. When the time comes, they should also appear in the supreme tomb. This was the space of the god domain. This time, there was no one who could stop him from seeing Xiao Jing. And then there was his drunkard father. After all, it had been more than 10 years since they had parted ways. Du Xiaofu was a bit nervous, but he was also looking forward to seeing him again. What's wrong? Are you thinking about your father and sister? Zhen Qingchun asked softly. I'm looking forward to it. Du Xiaofu smiled. Then, his eyes burned with passion. When the time comes, there will be many experts in front of the Supreme Being's tomb. I also want to see how strong my peers are. How many of them can be compared to you, Demon King? Dalan and Xiaolon rolled their eyes at Du Xiaofu. In their hearts, it was unlikely that there would be anyone in the same generation as the Demon King. Let's go to the Supreme Tomb. Everyone was already prepared. Du Xiaofu spoke and prepared to set off. He was filled with anticipation for the Supreme Tomb. However, he was absolutely not careless. Who knew what kind of dark horses would appear? Maybe there would be existences even stronger than the great snow mountain's descendant Lian Qingrong, the dark hell emperor Ming Yao, and the heavenly demon Yelu Han. Even a lion would use its full strength to catch a rabbit. Many cultivators were careless and couldn't escape their fate. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was never careless. In Du Xiaofu's heart, there were still a few people who were absolutely tyrannical existences. The son of his adoptive father, Jialo Changtian, and the younger brother of Jialo Kailing, Jialo Jumi. With his talent, he was qualified to enter the divine domain. When the divine domain opened, he would definitely appear. At that time, he would probably be a tyrannical opponent. There was another person whom Du Xiaofu was most concerned about. Back then, he had fought against him in Tianhuang mainland, and he was the only person of the same generation whom Du Xiaofu had yet to defeat. If he were here, Du Xiaofu wondered how powerful Du Xiaofu would be right now. Suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu and the others were about to set off, there was a fluctuation in the void in front of them. Du Xiaofu immediately narrowed his eyes and looked over. Whoosh! In the void, there was the sound of wind breaking. Then, a figure stopped and floated in the air, emitting green light. With the appearance of this figure, the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth also became abundant, with an ancient aura permeating the air. It was a young man in green who walked out. His demeanor was unparalleled, and he seemed to have discovered something. His eyes were vast as he stared at Du Xiaofu and the others from afar. There was a strong life force emanating from his body. What a strong aura, it's a demon spirit. Looking at the man in green who appeared in the void in the distance, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with surprise. That was definitely a powerful existence that was not inferior to Lian Qingrong, Yelu Han and the others. At this moment, the man in green also clearly felt the aura on Du Xiaofu's body. There was a fluctuation in the aura from afar. But in the end, the young man in green's eyes fell on Dongli Qingqing, who was beside Du Xiaofu. His eyes fluctuated and he let out a cry of surprise. Whoosh! However, it only paused for a moment before the green-clothed man once again broke through the air, disappearing into the air along with the sound of wind breaking. Demon spirit, strong aura, could it be the undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu? Du Xiaofu raised his brows. The aura on the demon spirit was not inferior to Lian Qingrong. If he guessed correctly, it was very likely to be the undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu. That's a demon spirit, its strength is terrifying. Dongli Qingqing said. She also felt the power of the young man in green. He should be heading towards the sovereign tomb. Be careful when you meet him. Du Xiaofu said to Dongli Qingqing. Then, the group flew away. As they got closer to the sovereign tomb, the number of figures they encountered gradually increased. After Du Xiaofu and the others left the myriad beast mountain, in the surrounding sky, there were figures flying in the air. There were even people riding on demonic beasts, turning into rainbows and rapidly flying forward. Looks like there are quite a lot of people. Du Xiaofu was a little surprised. In the divine dominion, there were dangers everywhere. But at this moment, there were quite a lot of living beings who could still walk step by step into the divine dominion. But most of them had already lost their life-saving talismans. But Du Xiaofu was not too surprised. In the divine dominion, all the living beings of the younger generation who were qualified to enter the divine dominion had already entered. There were also quite a few of the older generation. Naturally, there were quite a lot of people. Almost everyone had their own life-saving talismans. If they suffered once, they would have a second chance. So at this moment, those who were able to stay until the end were naturally not few. But they were still the elites of the elites. Master, the sovereign tomb is in front. Looking at the surrounding situation, the sovereign tomb might appear soon. Bing Feng looked around. He was more familiar with this place. Thousands of years ago, when the divine dominion was open to the outside world, he had participated in the fight and obtained some small opportunities. Du Xiaofu looked ahead. There was a huge square in front of him, surrounded by boundless mountains. From Bing Feng and the others, he knew that this square was usually filled with runes. It was a place of primal chaos, and it was impossible to enter. When this square appeared, the time for the supreme tomb to appear was approaching. The aura in front is a little unusual. Zhen Qingchun looked at the square in the distance and felt a vast and oppressive aura. That aura was very obscure, so vast that ordinary people would not be able to sense it. Du Xiaofu looked into the distance and felt the aura in the square in front of him. Suddenly, white runes flashed past his eyes like divine light, causing his eyes to tremble. Du Xiaofu was able to sense a vast and obscure fluctuation of aura from the vast square in front of him as he probed with his mind and the sharp energy of his soul. The aura fluctuation spread. The more one probed, the more vast it felt. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's nirvana realm cultivation seemed unusually small. As expected of the Dragon God and the Lord of the 3,000 Great Worlds. This place is not simple. Feeling the aura fluctuation, Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious. He did not dare to probe further. The aura was like a heavenly might that could not be provoked. Then, Du Xiaofu reminded everyone to be careful and rushed into the square together. When they arrived at the square, there were more and more figures in the surroundings. Many demonic beasts had revealed their true forms. However, they did not transform into their largest physical bodies. Instead, they maintained their sizes of tens of feet to tens of feet. Their ferocious eyes made some human cultivators not dare to provoke them. The square was near the center, and some good spots were occupied by some big and small forces. Some rogue cultivators and cultivators who were not strong enough could only be pushed to the periphery. Those closer to the center were some big forces and big beast clans. Their lineups were clearly separated and did not interfere with each other. However, although there were many living beings in the square, they were not all living beings in the entire divine domain. Whoosh whoosh, from time to time, there were still figures descending from the void. Although there were not many people coming, they kept gathering in the square, causing more and more people to gather in the square. Du Xiaofu did not have many people with him, but with Bing Feng, Yun Zhan, Qi Long, and Dang Hu, the four of them were ferocious existences. Their ferocious auras caused no one to dare to provoke them. The surrounding living beings were vigilant, and they definitely did not dare to offend Du Xiaofu and the others. Those who were able to come here were not fools. They could feel the strength of Du Xiaofu and the others, so they did not want to provoke an existence that they should not provoke and suffer a calamity. Although there were many big forces and clans here, if they were to talk about it seriously, except for the 9 great families, the Phoenix clan, the Dragons, and the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, there were not many who dared to be arrogant. No matter how strong the sect behind them was, it was nothing in here. There were many people here who they could not afford to provoke. What a familiar figure. It looks like the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Did I see wrongly? It should be him. I can't be wrong. As Du Xiaofu and the others passed by, there were people who whispered and looked surprised. When Du Xiaofu was about to reach the center of the square, his gaze swept across the front. Suddenly, his gaze froze. Chapter 1659. In the center of the vast square, there were 10 stone platforms standing quietly. However, what made Du Xiaofu's gaze freeze was the 10 stone platforms. They seemed to be standing quietly, but in fact, they were filled with a kind of boundless qi, which was extremely terrifying. At that moment, the 10 stone platforms were already occupied by various powerful monstrous beasts and large factions. There were signs of fighting in the surroundings, leaving behind quite a bit of bloody mist. The smell of blood was still spreading. From the looks of it, those who could stand firm on the 10 square stone platforms were definitely not ordinary cultivators. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the stone platforms and saw many familiar figures. The first ones that attracted his attention were Lian Qingrong and the 8 maidservants. The 9 of them occupied a stone platform, which was filled with a dense cold qi. It seemed that there was a shocking battle not long ago. On the stone platform not far from Lian Qingrong, Du Xiaofu saw the green-clothed youth that he saw not long ago. He was most likely the undead spirit demon, Dongfang Qingmu. His body was full of vitality, which made people tremble for no reason. At this moment, there was a black-clothed young man standing beside the green-clothed young man who was brimming with vitality. Strange black runes rippled out from his body. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the void. Those deep black eyes seemed to contain the 9 netherworld, causing people's hair to stand on end and their souls to scatter. He's also a demonic spirit. Could it be the Dark Hell Emperor, Ming Yao? Du Xiaofu guessed the identity of the black-clothed youth. His invisible qi was not below the green-clothed youth, so it was very likely that he was the Dark Hell Emperor, Ming Yao. When the 2 of them stood on the stone platforms, the surrounding people on the stone platforms were also afraid, and the people beside them did not dare to come close. Not far from the 2 of them, there was a large group of figures. There were at least 500 to 600 people, but Du Xiaofu had already seen some of them before. They were Hui Mutian and the others from the famous clan. They had fought with each other in the legalism competition. It seemed that the people on the stone platform were undoubtedly from the famous clan. Among the disciples of the famous clan, there was a long-robed youth beside Hui Mutian. His eyes were like the sea, and his qi was extraordinary. Supreme Nirvana Realm Expert. Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched slightly. He could sense the aura of the long-robed young man. He was definitely a Nirvana stage expert. Du Xiaofu was not surprised in his heart. With the background of the famous family, it was not strange for them to have a Nirvana supremacy. Master, those 10 stone platforms are places that must be fought for. With the appearance of the sovereign tomb, the people on those stone platforms will have a much higher chance of entering. At this moment, the hornless dragon spoke. Its voice entered Du Xiaofu's ears. At the same time, Du Xiaofu sensed a familiar aura. Sweeping his gaze across the area, he could sense the aura of hundreds of demonic beasts. Among them, there was a familiar aura of dragons. Master, it's Hui Dragon King and Long San. Dang Hu's voice reached Du Xiaofu's ears almost at the same time as the hornless dragon's voice. There was a slight tremor in his voice, and it was obvious that he was afraid. At this moment, Du Xiaofu suddenly sensed 2 extremely sharp gazes on the stone platform beside him. The aura was very cold. Following the gazes, Du Xiaofu saw a man in black battle robes and a middle-aged man in strange armor. The man in black battle robes had the aura of a dragon, while the middle-aged man's armor was very strange. It seemed to be made of reverse scales, which made the armor very special. The armor occasionally shone with a radiant light. Long San and the Mirage Dragon King. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and a cold light shot out from his eyes. Judging from the aura of the two people, there was no doubt that they were Long San and Hui Dragon King. On the stone platform, the man in black battle robes and the middle-aged man in armor were Long San and Hui Dragon King. Amidst the murmurs of discussion, the two of them immediately fixed their cold gazes on Du Xiaofu. At the same time, their faces changed in shock. They saw the twin seals, the hornless dragon, and Dang Hu standing next to Du Xiaofu. As they looked at each other, the atmosphere in the square immediately froze. The cultivators present all felt that the space was so frozen that the wind couldn't blow it away. The void quietly trembled violently. Even the eyes of the black-clothed young man and the green-clothed young man who were brimming with vitality on the surrounding stone platforms fluctuated slightly. Long San, Demon King, Du Xiaofu, there's going to be a show to watch. Among the famous people, the long-robed young man beside Hui Mutian said softly. He was happy to watch the show. Xiaofu. Young Hall Master. Big Brother Xiaofu. Old Third. Amidst the tense atmosphere, someone quickly approached from afar. The voice was familiar and was immediately squeezed out from the crowd. Du Xiaofu looked behind him and saw over 20 figures rushing out. They were all familiar figures with joy in their eyes. There was the 7-Star Hall's 6th Martial Uncle, Purple Sky Venerable, 2nd Martial Uncle, Fairy Yu, Dongli Jiao, Lin Weiqi, and a few other juniors of the Du family. Lastly, there were also his roommates from Tianwu Academy, Wu Qingfeng, Zhang Wei, Sun Ji, and a few other seniors and juniors of Tianwu Academy. However, when Du Xiaofu saw everyone's appearance, his gaze sank. 2nd Martial Uncle Fairy Yu, 6th Martial Uncle Zi Tianzuan, Dongli Jiao, Lin Weiqi, Wu Qingfeng, Zhang Wei and the others were all covered in wounds. From the looks of their injuries, it seemed that they had just fought not long ago. 2nd Martial Uncle, 6th Martial Uncle, Big Brother, 2nd Brother, and 4th Brother, what happened to you? Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious as he handed out healing elixirs to everyone. We were originally on the stone platform, but the famous experts came and attacked us directly. We weren't their match. Purple Sky Venerable smiled bitterly. He was a domineering figure, but at this moment, he seemed a little lonely and helpless. Facing the famous experts, he wasn't their match. He could only lead everyone down the stone platform. If it wasn't for the fact that he reacted quickly, he wouldn't have bothered with them. The famous experts definitely wouldn't mind killing them. Fairy Yu also had a bitter smile on her face. She didn't say anything. In front of the famous experts, they didn't have the strength to resist. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately turned towards the famous experts. Looking at the formation of hundreds of people, including Hui Mutian and the Nirvana Realm expert, there were also many elders and protectors of the famous experts. Although those elders and protectors of the famous experts had their cultivation suppressed, with their average strength and number, they definitely weren't people that the 2nd Martial Uncle, 6th Martial Uncle, Dongli Jiao, Lin Weiqi, and the others could contend against. Seeing Du Xiaofu's gaze, the long-robed young man, Hui Mutian, and many other disciples and protectors of the famous experts, who were planning to watch the show, suddenly trembled. Those people are related to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Many experts of the famous experts' eyes trembled inwardly. They naturally still remembered the people they had chased down not long ago. They naturally came to the square to fight for a stone platform. When they saw that there were more than 20 people occupying a stone platform and they weren't from the 9 great families or the Phoenix clan, they naturally attacked without any hesitation. Without any explanation, they heavily injured a few of them. However, seeing that those people were tactful enough to run away quickly, they didn't waste too much energy chasing after them. However, at this moment, the famous experts realized that those 20 people were actually related to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Immediately, their expressions became somewhat unsightly. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the disciples of the famous experts on the stone platform. He asked Dong Lijiao, Lin Weiqi, and the others, did we lose anyone? No one lost anyone. We saw that the situation wasn't good, so we didn't argue. It's just that those famous experts were too ruthless, and we were a little cowardly. Dong Lijiao said. Their strength was inferior, so being chased down the stone platform was nothing in itself. It was natural selection, and the strong were respected. There was always a taller mountain. However, as soon as those famous experts appeared, they didn't say anything and directly attacked fiercely. If they didn't retreat quickly, they probably would have died in this square. Famous experts. Du Xiaofu's eyes sunk, and he directly walked towards the famous experts. The famous expert had chased away his second senior uncle and sixth senior uncle on the stone platform. The weak were prey to the strong, and strength was the most important thing. However, Du Xiaofu wanted to seek justice for them. If they could snatch, then so could he. Looking at Du Xiaofu directly walking towards them, the eyes of the famous experts trembled, especially Hui Mutian and the others. They knew that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, wasn't someone to be trifled with. Du Xiaofu took a few steps and stood in front of the square platform of the famous experts. Dongli Qingqing, Yunmu, Bing Feng, and the others followed behind him. Slightly raising his head, Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the crowd. He looked at the group of famous experts and indifferently spat out two words, go down. Chapter 1660. Du Xiaofu, don't go too far. A young man in a long robe walked out from the famous clan. His face was angular, and there was a terrifying aura rippling from his body. He was filled with absolute power and danger, and there was also a pressure that could not be provoked. How am I going too far? It's fine if the famous clan snatched it. Can't I snatch it now? Du Xiaofu looked at the young man in a long robe and then glanced around him. There were many outstanding young people, as well as many old and middle-aged men. However, many of them had lost their life-saving talismans. It was unknown whether they had died once or the old and middle-aged men had lost their life-saving talismans because of the suppression of the divine domain. When the young man in the long robe heard Du Xiaofu's words, his expression changed. He looked at Du Xiaofu gloomily, and a powerful fluctuation accompanied by a faint whirlwind rune spread out. He said, so what if our famous clan chased away a few people? It's already good enough that we didn't kill them. Are you sure you want to be enemies with our famous clan? Don't incur the public anger of the 9 great clans. The young man in the lead was somewhat afraid of Du Xiaofu, so he did not act arrogantly. However, he was also arrogant. Du Xiaofu was being pursued by the legalism, dragons, and school of vertical and horizontal. If he dared to provoke the famous clan, he would be digging his own grave. How dare you speak to my master like that? Are you courting death? Yun Zhan, Tong Feng, and Qi Dragon, Dang Hu, had been placed with the blood soul seal, so they naturally protected their master under the beast controlling technique. They immediately shouted at the young man in the long robe, and a fierce aura surged out and swept through the sky. This aura was extraordinary, and it made all the famous clan members tremble in fear. In the divine domain, the strength of the elders and protectors of the famous clan was suppressed, and they could only reach the initial stage of the martial domain realm. However, Yun Zhan, Tong Feng, and the others were not suppressed at all. What's going on? Dang Hu, Qi Dragon, and Tong Feng, are they betraying us? When the Sea Serpent King saw from afar that Bing Feng and the others had submitted to Du Xiaofu, the Sea Serpent King, along with Long San and the others, were puzzled and had ugly expressions. If you have the strength, you can naturally chase them away. As for killing them, I'm afraid you don't have the strength to do so. The famous clan doesn't have the capital to threaten me. I've already given you a chance. If you don't go down, then I can only learn from you. Du Xiaofu waved his hand to stop Yun Mu and the rest, asking them to withdraw. As the words left his mouth, he gently stomped his foot on the ground, and his figure rose into the air. He looked down at the disciples on the stone platform, and immediately waved his hand. Golden light symbols and mysterious patterns that filled the sky directly swept out, and finally transformed into the illusory image of a great peng's golden wings. This was the sky-shaking wings. Bang bang bang, with a sweep of its wings, golden light covered the sky. The space above the stone platform exploded, and golden talisman runes filled the air. Du Xiaofu, do you really think that I, Hui Yuan, am afraid of you? The leading young man in robes roared. In an instant, his eyes suddenly sharpened, and his gaze shot out like a blade. The surrounding aura of runes soared into the sky, turning into a storm vortex that blocked most of Du Xiaofu's attack. However, under the aftershock of Du Xiaofu's sky-shaking wings, many disciples on the stone platform were directly sent flying. Even though Du Xiaofu had not used his full strength, many of them were directly smashed to pieces and turned into a bloody mist. Bastard, I'd like to see if your reputation is unwarranted. Hui Yuan was furious. He was the true number one person among the younger generation of the famous clan, a Nirvana stage sovereign. At this moment, he was furious. No one had ever dared to be so presumptuous in front of him and a famous clan member. This was a provocation to him, an absolute humiliation to the famous clan. Boom! In an instant, Hui Yuan's face turned cold and gloomy. With a wave of his sleeve, a terrifying Yuan spirit energy shot towards Du Xiaofu at lightning speed, bringing with it a terrifying sovereign pressure. A dual cultivator of martial arts and talisman arts, a Yuan spirit attack. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes. A Yuan spirit energy immediately swept out from the Naiwan palace in his mind, accompanied by flashes of lightning and roars of thunder, and silver-gold lightning arcs overflowed. Rumble, the two Yuan spirit energies collided, causing lightning to flash and thunder to rumble. A powerful Yuan spirit fluctuation spread, almost tearing space apart. However, the space in the square was very strange. It was able to isolate the devouring attack. The space was indestructible, and the ground was difficult to crack. However, as the two Yuan spirit energies collided, Hui Yuan's figure immediately staggered back, and a mouthful of dark red blood spurted from his mouth. When he stabilized his body, shock surged in his eyes. Under his Yuan spirit attack, it was impossible for someone of the same cultivation level to resist. Just a moment ago, his Yuan spirit attack was as fast as lightning. However, only now did he know how unfathomable his opponent's Yuan spirit was. It was also domineering and destructive. Is this the strength of the famous clan's younger generation? It's very weak. I'm afraid that this stone platform will not be able to hold on. Du Xiaofu said indifferently. There was not much fluctuation in his emotions. With his current cultivation and strength, he indeed had the qualifications to have such an attitude. The famous clan cannot be challenged by an outsider. You, Du Xiaofu, are not allowed either. As his face twitched, Hui Yuan took a step into the air. 6 divine flames rose from the top of his head, and the supreme power surged. The aura of a peak Nirvana stage cultivator swept out without holding back. Rumble. In an instant, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Winds rose and clouds surged. The martial veins in his body were activated, and the runes were resplendent as a gale whistled. The clouds followed the dragon, and the wind followed the tiger. Hui Yuan's giant tiger vein spirit carried the terrifying might of a Nirvana stage expert. It seemed to have transformed into an earth-shattering storm. As it roared, it pounced towards Du Xiaofu like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. Seeing that Hui Yuan had already activated his vein spirit, Du Xiaofu's eyes turned cold. He formed a seal with his hand, and a blazing and terrifying purple flame surged out. It transformed into a purple flame demonic phoenix, and directly collided with the giant tiger. A woo! The collision roared and hissed, and a terrifying aura swept out in the sky. Oh my God, he's not putting Hui Yuan in his eyes. When they saw that the beast energy that Du Xiaofu had casually condensed was able to fight against Hui Yuan's vain spirit, many creatures in the surroundings exclaimed. At this moment, when Hui Yuan saw that Du Xiaofu had casually condensed beast energy to resist his vain spirit, a cold smile flashed across his eyes. His figure crossed the sky, and under the supreme heavenly might of a Nirvana stage expert, he clenched his fist. A gale whistled and turned into a vortex. 6 divine flames condensed in the vortex, and seeped out, enveloping Du Xiaofu with the power to devour the heavens. Not bad. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly and looked at the gale vortex. His eyes turned cold, and his palm was suddenly covered with tricolored runes. It transformed into a tricolored palm print that was golden, black, and silver, and was suspended in front of him. The tricolored palm print was sparkling and translucent, and it was filled with runes. A heart-palpitating ripple spread out from it, causing all the living beings present to shudder in fear. Break! In the blink of an eye, the tricolored palm print on Du Xiaofu's palm tore through space and expanded in the wind. The tricolored runes contained a terrifying destructive power, and they slammed into the Nirvana stage vortex. Rumble! The Nirvana stage vortex trembled violently, and then it erupted with tricolored runes. Then, the entire vortex trembled and exploded. In the blink of an eye, the entire sky trembled violently, and an energy storm swept out in all directions. The terrifying impact caused a pitch-black halo to appear in the exploded void. It was like a black hole that swallowed everything, and then it gradually disappeared. The creatures in the square were dumbfounded, and their hearts were palpitating. There was no lack of super experts present who were shocked by such a terrifying destructive power. That destructive power was far beyond the initial martial domain realm. All the creatures could feel that even those who had just reached the peak of the sealed domain realm would be severely injured, if not killed. The eyes of the cold black-clothed young man, the lively green-clothed young man, Long San, the Sea Serpent King, and the others, who had been quietly watching the show, trembled violently as they watched the frightening power sweep over. Lian Qingrong and the 8th maidservant's expressions didn't change much, and they weren't surprised at all. Puff, the terrifying vortex exploded, and the energy storm dissipated in an instant. The resplendent runes dimmed, and the chaotic space gradually cleared up. Hui Yuan's figure appeared in front of everyone. The runes on his body dimmed, and his aura was extremely weak. The 6 divine rings above his head seemed to be extinguished at any time. Nirvana isn't enough. Go down. Du Xiaofu's figure flashed across the sky like a ghost, and his body exuded a strange fluctuation. He waved his hand, and thunderclouds gathered in the void around him. Large amounts of purple lightning descended in a domineering manner like a torrential rain, striking Hui Yuan off the stone platform. Puff! Hui Yuan spat out mouthfuls of blood as he crashed onto the stone platform, severely injured. The giant tiger bloodline spirit in the sky was also shattered. Bang bang bang, countless bolts of lightning fell from the sky, and many of the disciples on the stone platform were blasted away one after another. Arcs of lightning overflowed everywhere. It was a tragic sight, and miserable screams could be heard. Du Xiaofu, you're provoking the famous clan. You're making an enemy of the famous clan. Many elders of the famous clan shouted, their eyes filled with anger, but they were all in a sorry state as they hurriedly dodged the falling purple lightning. Those who don't get down will be killed without mercy. Du Xiaofu only replied with one sentence. Get down quickly. Some elders and middle-aged men of the famous clan shouted in panic. They supported Hui Yuan and immediately left the stone platform, not daring to stay any longer. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had actually swept away the strongest expert of the younger generation of the famous clan with just a raise of his hand and threatened him to leave in a hurry, the surroundings were incomparably shocked. Every dog has its day. Every dog has its day. Dong Lijiao, Lin Weiqi, Zhang Wei, and the others were pleasantly surprised after recovering from their shock. Previously, they had left in a sorry state, but not long after, they made a comeback, suppressing the famous clan to the point where they could not raise their heads. I didn't expect such an existence to exist. Is he the demon king that everyone is talking about? On a stone platform, the eyes of the lively green-clothed youth and the black-clothed youth, whose eyes were like the depths of hell, flashed with radiant runes at this moment. The demon king, Du Xiaofu, defeated Hui Yuan without even using his supreme power. Too terrifying. The surrounding creatures with extraordinary eyesight were shocked as they discussed softly, their eyes trembling. He really does have some ability. On a stone platform to the side, the Hui Dragon King's deep eyes rippled as he revealed a look of surprise. This bastard must die, or there will be endless trouble in the future. Long San's black battle robe fluttered as killing intent surged in his deep eyes. Chapter 1661. Swoosh swoosh, Purple Tianzuan, Yu Xianzi, Dongli Qingqing, the woman with the surname Su, Yunmu, and the others appeared on the stone platform and landed behind Du Xiaofu. Compared to Dongli Jiao, Lin Weiqi, and the others, Purple Tianzuan and Yu Xianzi seemed a little lonely. In this space of the divine dominion, they had seen too many of the younger generation. They were terrifyingly talented and powerful. The most tyrannical creatures in the world were gathered together. The older generation did not have the slightest advantage when they came in. They were even suppressed. They had seen too many peerless geniuses. This was a great impact on Purple Tianzuan and the others. Fortunately, the most outstanding young people at this moment were from the 7-star hall. They were their juniors. This also gave Purple Tianzuan and Yu Xianzi the greatest comfort. On the stone platform, the disciples of the famous families left unwillingly. Du Xiaofu landed on the stone platform and felt 2 cold gazes. He looked in the direction of the gazes and saw the man in the black battle robe and the middle-aged man in battle armor again. His eyes were suffused with a golden light that spread out like a vortex. People of the dragons. Dongli Qingqing said softly. She watched as the aura on Long San and the others began to fluctuate. She said to Du Xiaofu, they seem to be a little restless. I was worried that I wouldn't meet them. The golden light in Du Xiaofu's eyes grew brighter. There was no need to be polite when encountering people of the dragons. He formed a seal in his hand, and the overbearing ancient runes flickered and turned into life-saving talismans. Zhang Wei and the others behind him who had lost their life-saving talismans were all replaced with life-saving talismans. Yun Mu, Qi Long, Tang Hu, follow me. The rest of you, protect yourselves. While everyone was surprised by the life-saving talismans, Du Xiaofu's voice fell and his figure had already soared into the sky. To Du Xiaofu, encountering people of the dragons was already an irreconcilable feud. There was no need to be polite. He would kill as many as he could. This human actually wants to take the initiative to attack. He has some guts. The Sea Serpent King said. His battle armor shone and his eyes became sharp. Puny human, you're courting death. Behind the Sea Serpent King, a ferocious middle-aged man flew into the sky. He was the Sea Serpent King's trusted aide and direct descendant. As he shouted coldly, he flew into the sky. His body glowed and turned into a giant-scaled demonic beast. He looked like a pangolin with a terrifying aura. Double Seal, Hornless Dragon, Dang Hu, are you trying to rebel? At the same time, 3 more figures shot out from behind Hui Dragon King. In an instant, there was a burst of light and they turned into 3 ferocious ancient monster species. Roar, 4 enormous demonic beasts soared into the sky, their terrifying auras suddenly erupting as they roared. Every single one of them had a cultivation of the great domain realm, and none of them were inferior to Bai Feng and the Hornless Dragon. All of a sudden, a ferocious aura swept across the square, causing the surrounding creatures to tremble in fear. Only then did they realize how powerful the cultivators gathered around the dragons were. Oh my God, it's the ancient monster species here. They won't be suppressed by the space of the divine domain. I'm afraid they're all at the great domain realm of the demonic domain. Someone exclaimed. The terrifying aura was too ferocious. They were all ancient monster species, so they were extremely powerful and terrifying. Any one of these 4 terrifying primordial demonic beasts was enough to massacre any living being that entered the divine domain. How dare you block my way with just a few beasts? Du Xiaofu didn't stop. He directly soared into the sky without any fear. You're courting death. The first ancient scaled demonic beast species roared ferociously. Its huge body was its most powerful attack. Its body was wrapped in dazzling runes, and the terrifying aura of the great domain realm was accompanied by the power of heaven and earth. With vast power, it crashed toward Du Xiaofu with crushing force. Boom! However, Du Xiaofu shook his arm, and golden light shone from his body. In an instant, it covered the sky and turned the surrounding space into a golden ocean. Mysterious runes condensed into the image of a golden-winged roc, and it flapped its wings and tore the stars apart with a wave of its claws. Under such domineering power, the souls of the surrounding demonic beasts and ancient monster species palpitated, and they couldn't help but want to prostrate themselves. Qi La. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and clawed at the space. The claw tore the space apart and directly crushed the hard scales on the back of the scaled demonic beast. Blood dripped and flowed, and the huge body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Hula! Du Xiaofu swung his arm out horizontally, causing his entire body to be wrapped in dazzling golden light that blazed like a scorching sun. Golden talisman markings erupted from his body, and his wings that shook the heavens flapped out to shatter an ancient demon beast that pounced at him from the side. Die! Du Xiaofu shouted loudly. Golden light erupted from his body, and he was like an overlord that had descended to the world. He kicked out, and the golden light condensed into an enormous footprint. He kicked an ancient monster species ferocious bird apart. Ao! In an instant, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared on the head of the last enormous and ferocious demonic beast species. He was like a roc that soared through the 9 heavens, and golden light interweaved. No matter how the demonic beast struggled and utilized various ferocious methods, it was unable to shake off Du Xiaofu. Die! Die! Du Xiaofu shouted loudly. The domineering aura on his body seemed to suppress the world, and his fist directly smashed onto the ferocious head of the demonic beast. His fist struck the flesh, shattered the defense, and blasted the head apart. Bang! 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 For terrifying ancient monster species. All of them were at the grand domain realm. At this moment, they were practically instantly killed by Du Xiaofu, and even their beast souls didn't escape. Gulp! Gulp! Gasps could be heard all around the square, and the sound of saliva being swallowed rose and fell. At this moment, all the living beings in the square were stunned as they watched the shocking scene in the sky in front of them. At this moment it was as if the Demon King was the real ferocious demonic beast. He was a roc in human form, and the 4 ancient monster species were just sheep that couldn't withstand a single blow. In an instant, the 4 ancient monster species at the grand domain realm were completely killed. What kind of tyrannical killing intent was this? How powerful and terrifying was this? Huff! Huff! When the disciples of the famous families saw this scene, they finally realized how restrained Du Xiaofu had been. He was simply going easy on them. Otherwise, with the Demon King's terrifying strength and ferocious appearance, it would be enough to kill them all. In the blink of an eye, the 4 ancient monster species at the grand domain realm were killed amidst several muffled sounds of energy. Long San and the Sea Serpent Dragon King's expressions changed immediately. Behind the Sea Serpent Dragon King, there was a large group of ancient monster species that were all trembling in fear. The Great Golden Winged Roc Clan. Is that brat a human or a great rock? The sea serpent dragon king was surprised. The aura on that figure didn't feel like beast energy at all, but that of a true great golden-winged rock. Long San, come out and die. Du Xiaofu stepped into the void, his body glowing with golden light as he looked down at the man in black battle robes. Under such dragon might, there was no one else but Long San. Little bastard, you're courting death. Long San stomped his foot and leaped into the air. His black battle robes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were filled with deep, dark killing intent. He stared at Du Xiaofu and said gloomily, "You've killed so many of my brothers. Today, you'll definitely die. Those who offend me will be killed. And you, too, won't be enough today." Du Xiaofu stared straight at Long San. Golden light surged as he looked disdainfully at the surroundings. "Count me in." A ferocious aura spread out as the sea serpent dragon king leaped into the air and stood in front of Long San. Another mixed blood dragon. Many mixed blood dragons have died in my hands. I don't mind adding one more. Du Xiaofu said coldly. He could feel that the sea serpent dragon king was definitely very strong. But since he had already encountered him, there was no need to fear him. However, Du Xiaofu's words made the sea serpent dragon king's eyes turn cold. Demon King Du Xiaofu is going to attack the dragons again. The surrounding creatures were in an uproar. They were extremely shocked. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was going to attack the dragons again after dealing with a famous person. So what if you count me in? I'll just kill you all. Dongli Qingqing didn't continue watching. She spoke and walked out. Her fairy-like temperament was rippling with green light, making her look like a goddess. Her beauty was stunning. Who is she? She seems to be very strong too. The surrounding people were discussing Dongli Qingqing. Not many people knew her. She's Dongli Qingqing of the Great Will sect. It's rumored that she has a close relationship with the Demon King Du Xiaofu. A creature from the Central Plains spoke and revealed Dongli Qingqing's background. The news spread across the square. The Sea Serpent Dragon King looked at Dongli Qingqing. His eyes rippled. He could also feel that this alluring woman was definitely an extremely strong existence. The four of them stood in the air. Four auras rippled out, and the space suddenly began to tighten. Then let's get rid of them. The Sea Serpent Dragon King stared at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. A strange ripple appeared in the depths of his eyes. He sneered coldly. The reverse scale armor on his body glowed. A terrifying killing intent spread out from his body like a hurricane. It caused the clouds and wind to surge above the square. It was a terrifying scene. Every time the space of the divine domain opens, there are supremes who die at my hands. This time, the space of the divine domain opens. I'll start with you guys. The Sea Serpent Dragon King said coldly. He didn't hold back his terrifying killing intent. His aura gradually swept out, and the reverse scale armor became more and more resplendent. At the same time, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Mysterious purple lightning talisman patterns began to surge in the depths of his eyes. The indestructible Xian body in his body was covered in purple gold lightning. Faint sounds of lightning and thunder could be heard. Chapter 1662. Roar, yellow runes surged on Long San's body, and there was a faint shadow of a giant dragon hovering in the air. Dongli Qingqing stepped into the void. Her body was suffused with green light, and there was a fiend god aura that began to ripple and devour vitality. The supreme tomb hasn't appeared yet, but it's already so lively here. Just as the battle was about to break out, a faint voice was heard, and then a large number of figures directly flew over from the distance. The leader of this group of people was a man in his late 20s. He was dressed in a Confucian robe and had an extremely elegant temperament, but his eyes were deep and vast. When the leader of the group appeared, his gaze swept across the people on the stone platform in the square. It was obvious that his gaze lingered on the young man in black robes and the young man in white robes for a while. Then, he looked at Long San, Du Xiaofu, and the others, who were all ready to fight, and said with a smile, "I just happened to be here. I don't intend to interfere. You all continue. Kong Sansi, there are so many people in your Confucian school. You want to take advantage of the situation by waiting for both sides to suffer. That's a good idea." As the man called Kong Sansi of the Confucian school finished his words with a grin, another female voice was heard. The voice was clean and neat. Swish. Swish, with the commotion of the crowd in the distance, a woman in a tight robe walked out. She had a curvaceous figure and slender legs. She had the hotness of Du Xiaoman and Li Shui, as well as the beauty of Su Muxin in men's clothing. This woman didn't look very old. She was only in her late 20s, and her whole person revealed a wild beauty. Behind her, there were also many figures following her. There were nearly 1,000 people in total, and the momentum was great. Beside this wild woman, there were also many familiar figures. Sima Muhan, Sima Taxing, and Mo Li. They were all from the Mo family. Du Xiaofu looked down and naturally saw Sima Muhan and Sima Taxing. It was not difficult to guess that they were from the Mo family. It's Xiaofu. Sima Taxing and Sima Muhan saw Du Xiaofu in the void and were shocked. Cousin Runan, Sima Muhan immediately pulled the woman's arm, feeling very nervous. Let's wait and see. There's no need to worry. The wild-looking woman whispered to Sima Muhan as she looked around the square. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, I didn't expect everyone to arrive so early. As the voice faded, a beam of light shot over from afar. The light was so bright that it dazzled everyone. After that, groups of people descended from the sky and landed on the square. The leader of the group was a man in a yellow robe. He was quite young, had a handsome face, and had a gentle temperament. However, the aura on his body was enough to make people tremble for no reason. Powerful auras descended, causing Du Xiaofu to look over as well. He saw many familiar figures, such as Guan Lianin, Master Void Spirit, and so on. Du Xiaofu sensed the aura of these people and it was not difficult to guess their identities. They were Taoists. Amitba, Master Void Spirit, you're early too. Another voice echoed in the square as the light of Buddha descended from the void. Thousands of novice monks and bald monks appeared with great momentum. Some of the monks in the front had 9 shining scars on their heads. The leader of the group was a monk. He was young, but he was already wearing a golden cassock, which proved that he had a high status. He was the one who spoke just now. Although his voice was not loud, it was like a tsunami that shook people's souls for no reason. Buddhism. These people were undoubtedly the easiest to recognize. Only Buddhism's people would dress like this. Du Xiaofu also saw Heng Rushi, Heng Qi, Ninefold Spirit, and other familiar figures. While Du Xiaofu was looking at the Buddhism's people, he suddenly looked in another direction. Above the void on his right, many figures appeared. There were many of them. They cut through the sky and appeared in the void of the square in an instant. Brother. Third young master. An excited voice entered Du Xiaofu's ears. A man with deep, dark eyes, a majestic figure, and a face so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of nations quickly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. His beautiful face had a smile in his eyes. His black hair was as smooth as a waterfall, reaching his soft waist and buttocks. He was enchanting and graceful. This woman and man, who else could it be other than Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger Du? Du Xiaofu smiled at the two of them. At this moment, Du Xiaoqing and Du Xiaoyao still had life-saving talismans between their eyebrows. It was enough to show that the two of them did not encounter any great danger. Then, he gestured for the two of them to stand behind him. Sister Qingqing, you're busy too. Du Shaoqing then went to Dongli Qingqing's side with a warm and affectionate face. Back in Tianhuang mainland, they had spent a long time together and had a very deep relationship. Dragons. A golden-robed young man with shoulder-length blonde hair quietly stood beside Du Xiaofu. His figure was slender and tall as he stared at Long San and Hui Dragon King, who were at loggerheads with each other. The licentious smile at the corner of his mouth quietly turned into a cold arc. His dazzling golden spirit eyes shone with golden light as if they were burning with golden divine fire. You came at the right time. Du Xiaofu smiled with satisfaction. Du Xiaoyao's arrival at this moment was undoubtedly a great help. Others did not know Du Xiaoyao's strength, but Du Xiaofu knew best that Du Xiaoyao's true strength was absolutely terrifying. Even Du Xiaofu himself could not be sure of Du Xiaoyao's true strength at this moment. Even he had never seen Du Xiaoyao use all her strength. Neither of them is weak. That ancient demon beast is even stronger, but it doesn't matter much. Du Xiaoyao sized up Long San and Hui Dragon King. She stood there quietly, exuding an awe-inspiring aura of a ruler. Swoosh swoosh, in the void, there were many figures who had come with them. There were also many younger generation members of the Du family and demon beasts from the Heavenly Beast Hall. Their auras were vigorous and fierce. However, there was even more of a huge lineup. There were familiar figures like Zhou Yu, Jiang Yunfeng, and Du Xiaofu among them. They were disciples of the farmer family. Thank you for your care. There was also a tall girl with jet-black hair and jade-like skin who walked out from the farmer family. She was Mo Junyu of the Mo family. She had led several disciples of the Mo family and was severely injured in a dangerous situation. In the end, she encountered the farmer family and was rescued. In order to reduce the danger, she had been traveling with the farmer family during this period of time. At this moment, seeing that the disciples of the Mo family were all present, Mo Junyu bid farewell to the disciples of the farmer family and walked back to the side of the wild-looking girl from the Mo family. In the farmer family, the leader of the group was a girl with snow-white skin. She had an elegant and noble temperament that made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anticipation. After looking around, the girl nodded and smiled at Du Xiaofu. After that, her beautiful figure quietly landed on the square. Brother, she is Sister Xiaoluo. Du Shaoqing said beside Du Xiaofu. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu often heard Du Shaoqing mention that girl. He had long sensed that the girl's aura was extraordinary. She stood quietly in the square without saying anything. Her aura was indescribably noble. Her aura quietly merged with the vast space. She was definitely an extremely tyrannical existence. Experts from various factions arrived one after another. The people of the Mo family and the farmer family also appeared, causing Long San's expression to turn gloomy. Mo Runan, Zhou Xiaoluo. Ripples appeared in the depths of Long San's black eyes. He knew that the relationship between the Nong family and the Mo family wasn't simple. He also knew that although the Mo family's Mo Runan and the Nong family's Zhou Xiaoluo were women, they were both extremely difficult opponents to deal with. Long San's eyes secretly twitched as he stared coldly at Du Xiaofu. He was afraid that the farmer family and the Mo family would help him. His eyes secretly turned as he said in a deep voice, "Little bastard, it's time to act. Do you want to find a few more helpers? Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be a match for them." Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. Just as he was about to speak, a childish but domineering voice suddenly resounded in the sky from afar. "I seem to have sensed the presence of a mixed-blood dragon. Get out here for this emperor." As the childish voice sounded, a 7 or 8-year-old little girl directly descended. On her chubby face, there was a faint golden brilliance in the depths of her bewitching eyes. She exuded a domineering aura. Her red skirt fluttered slightly, with star patterns revolving around it. "It's little Xingxing." Du Xiaoqing was instantly overjoyed as she recognized little Xingxing. Sensing the aura on little Xingxing's body, Long San seemed to have sensed something. His black eyes continuously rippled on little Xingxing's body. When he saw little Xingxing appear, Du Xiaofu temporarily ignored Long San as a faint smile appeared on his face. Swoosh swoosh, whooshing sounds resounded. Just as little Xingxing's figure appeared, a large number of whooshing sounds resounded. Numerous bright rainbows pierced through the sky, as if a rainbow light had descended. Subsequently, figures appeared one after another in front of many astonished gazes from all around the square. Wow! When these figures appeared in the sky, countless exclamations could not help but resound from all around the square. It was as if they had seen the most unbelievable and shocking scene. Chapter 1663. In front of these figures, there were many beautiful figures with their clothes fluttering in the wind. All of them were surrounded by ripples of light. The few women in the front were even more beautiful and had exquisite figures. There were women who were like falling lotuses, pure and untainted fairies. There were women who charmed all living things, women who combined charm and nobility. There were also women who were valiant with a domineering temperament. There were also women who were delicate and beautiful, all of them were like immortals that had descended to the mortal world. Many beautiful women present felt ashamed of their inferiority and lost their splendor. At this moment, only Dongli Qingqing, Zhou Xiaoluo, Mo Runan, and Sima Muhan could compete with them in terms of splendor. Gosh, they're too beautiful. So many beautiful women. Is this a gathering of beauties? People around the square were constantly exclaiming. All of the living beings present were geniuses with extraordinary temperaments. Ordinary women were not enough to catch their eyes. Even ordinary beautiful women would not be able to move their hearts. However, at this moment, these women were simply too beautiful. More importantly, each of them had an extraordinary temperament that was enough to move the hearts of countless men. Looking at those beautiful women with powerful auras following behind them, Du Xiaofu revealed a smile. Those who came were Su Muxin, Qi Yeshi, Jialo Kailing, Zhu Shui, Tang Mailing, Ji Jian, Shui Ruhan, Gu Xinyan, Jialo Jueyu, Yi Wuming, General, Gu Qin Demon, Gui Che, and Master Gu Qingyang. They had been separated before and were now reunited. Dragons. Qi Yeshi flew across the sky and stood beside little Xingxing. Her red lips were red and her eyes were bright like the starry sky. She looked at Long San and the others with yin and yang qi circulating around her. Su Muxin stood quietly beside Du Xiaofu. She was extremely charming and seductive. She looked at Long San and the others from afar. Then, she saw Dongli Qingqing. The two women looked at each other. Their eyes rippled and there was a trace of awkwardness that only they knew. So it's a mixed-blood dragon. How dare you touch the great golden-winged rocks? You're courting death. Jialo Kailing shouted. Then, Jialo Jueyu and Jialo Kailing appeared beside Du Xiaofu. Their eyes flickered with golden light, sharp and tyrannical. School of Yin Yang, golden-winged great rocks, looking at Qi Yeshi, Jialo Kailing, and Jialo Jueyu, the corners of Long San's eyes twitched again. At this moment, Qi Yeshi, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Su Muxin, Jialo Kailing, Jialo Jueyu, and Dongli Qingqing all stood together. The Nightmare Dragon King's expression gradually turned ugly. Their presences were enough to make him feel pressured. Brat, you want to rely on numbers, Long San said, looking at Du Xiaofu with a gloomy face. Don't be noisy, mixed-blood dragon. Little Xingxing interrupted Long San and ignored him. He looked at the void and his eyes flickered. He said to Du Xiaofu happily, Father, I can feel Xian Yang's aura. Mother is here. As soon as little Xingxing finished speaking, the temperature in the void suddenly increased. Then, many figures appeared in front of everyone's eyes. They flew over from the edge of the square. Swoosh swoosh, in an instant, many figures appeared in the void above the square. There were many outstanding young men and women. All of them had outstanding auras. The men were divine and ethereal. The women were dignified and noble. They were pure and untainted. The woman in the lead was graceful. Her body was graceful, her lips were like cherry blossoms, and she looked like autumn water. She was Huang Ling, of the Phoenix clan. Beside Huang Ling, a beautiful woman walked out. Her fingers were slender and her skin was snow-white. There was a hint of purple in her snow-white skin. Her eyes were like purple suns. Mother. When little Xingxing saw this beautiful woman, he immediately pounced on her intimately. Little girl. The beautiful woman's lips curled into a smile. Her purple sun-like eyes were filled with love. Her figure flew out. Her waist was slender and her limbs were long. She had an otherworldly aura like a fairy. She immediately hugged little Xingxing in her arms. That beautiful figure was dressed in purple. Purple flames were flickering. Her aura was otherworldly. She hugged little Xingxing happily and said, "Little girl, you've grown up. But mother is still so beautiful. You haven't changed at all." Little Xingxing's young voice was crisp. His face was pure and harmless. He was completely different from the person who had scolded Long San earlier. Brother Du Xiaofu. At the same time, a crisp voice was heard. Behind purple flame demonic phoenix Zi Xian, a beautiful figure flew out. Her voice was filled with surprise as she pounced into Du Xiaofu's arms. Before Du Xiaofu could even react, that beautiful figure had already arrived in his arms. However, although there were some changes in her voice, it was still a familiar voice. Du Xiaofu immediately recognized her. He hugged that beautiful figure in his arms. His eyes were filled with surprise and he was extremely happy in his heart. He said, "Xingyu, you've also come. Master asked me to come. I also want to come in and see Brother Xiaofu." Only then did the woman raise her head in Du Xiaofu's arms. She looked to be in her 20s. Her brows were slightly furrowed. She looked like she was faintly discernible. She was graceful and beautiful. What a beautiful woman. Who else could it be other than Dai Xinyu? Me too. A green-clothed girl also arrived in front of Du Xiaofu. Her fair and flawless skin had a faint pinkness. Her long eyelashes were slightly curled up. Her clear and bright eyes were filled with a faint green light. She was moving and cute. Little Xingxing. Du Xiaofu grinned as he recognized it. This was the little azure bird that little Star had saved in the dark forest all those years ago, and he only found out about its true form later on. It was an azure phoenix, and its bloodline was absolutely not inferior to the bloodline of Zi Xian's violet flame demonic phoenix. "Xingyu, you've also come." Du Xiaoqing was very happy. She and Du Xiaoyao had already known Dai Xinyu since the battle with the evil purifying alliance. They immediately stood beside Dai Xinyu. "Little Xingxing, brother little demon, little circle." Dai Xinyu greeted Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaoqing. However, little Tiger Du was very depressed. He could not get rid of the nickname that Dai Xinyu had given him. "Is everyone here?" The restless square was once again in an uproar as though it had been planned beforehand. Quite a number of figures appeared in the square. They lifted their heads and scanned their surroundings. Then, they looked at the void with smiles in their eyes. Ouyang Shuang, Yi Zijin, Phantom, Sky Moon Poison Spider, Wild Chongjiao and the others appeared in the square. They had been saved by Dongli Qingqing the last time. Now, they were safe and sound in front of the Supreme Being's tomb. Beautiful women appeared one after another. Every one of them was a peerless beauty. They all had their own merits. Standing in the void and in the square, it was like 100 flowers were competing for their beauty. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Few, When Ouyang Shuang, Yi Zijin and the others appeared, Du Xiaofu looked around. Many figures had already appeared. Everyone was fine. Du Xiaofu heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, only a few people had not appeared. Sister Shuang. When Du Xiaoqing, Dai Xingyu and the others saw Ouyang Shuang, they immediately flew down from the sky. How many people are related to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu? There are so many beautiful women. Each one is more charming than the other. This Demon King is ferocious, but it seems that his luck with women is abnormal. This Demon King is too enviable. Not only is he abnormally strong, but he is also surrounded by so many beautiful women. Those beautiful women are like fairies. If one of them is given to me, I will die without regrets. I am also willing to give up the treasures in the Supreme Being's tomb. I'm afraid that the treasures in the Supreme Being's tomb won't belong to you. Those women are all abnormally strong. They are definitely not something you can touch. Be careful not to attract calamity. The square was filled with discussions. The people who came one after another were more or less related to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. What made the men present the most shocked and jealous was that each and every one of these devastatingly beautiful women had a close relationship with the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu, do you still want to fight? How many people does your desolate country have? Or how many helpers do you need before you dare to fight? Why don't you all come at once? We, the dragons, don't mind you having more people. Anyway, they won't be able to withstand a single blow. Long San couldn't stand it anymore. From the moment he was ready to fight, there were many people who came one after another. Their auras were extremely strong, which made him feel uneasy. But as his aura changed, the uneasy feeling disappeared. Long San's eyes twitched. He was really afraid that these people would gang up on him. The Golden-Winged Rock Clan, Phoenix Clan, Yin-Yang School, School of Agriculture, School of Mo, etc. They were all able to make Long San feel apprehensive. Although he had some confidence in his heart, if these people were to gang up on him, it would definitely be disadvantageous for him. So what if you have dragons? My desolate country specializes in slaying dragons. Just as Long San's voice rang out, before Du Xiaofu could open his mouth, 20 figures broke through the air in front of them like rainbows and flew over from the distant void. Boom! These figures hadn't arrived yet, their shouts had already resounded overbearingly like thunder, and strands of bloody, fierce, and peerlessly ferocious aura swept through the sky like a storm. What a dense evil aura! Every single living being on the square was extraordinary, but at this moment, when they felt the bloody and ferocious aura, all of them felt their hearts tremble. Chapter 1664. 20 or so rainbows flew over and instantly appeared in the void. There were 20 in total, 19 men and 1 woman. Their eyes were as bright as lightning. 20 auras swept through the air. The figures stood tall and straight, like 20 sharp blades in the sky. When the 20 figures appeared, a formless, murderous aura swept through the air, causing the air to become oppressive. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. The one in the lead was a fiery-looking woman. Beside her were a black-robed man and a cloud-robed man. One of them had faint black runes on his body, and his black eyes were filled with dazzling runes. They seemed to contain 2 black holes in the universe. The aura emanating from his body caused the air to tremble for no reason. The cloud-robed young man's cloud-robed robe fluttered in the wind. His face was handsome, and his body was covered with faint purple lightning. His murderous aura was domineering. Purple lightning flashed in his eyes as he swept his gaze around, causing some of the beasts below to tremble. They were Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Qiangu Yu, Silver Fox, Stone, Anya Cha, Duo Sha, and the rest of the 18 celestial guards. Greetings, President. When the 18 celestial guards appeared, they immediately bowed. Their murderous auras rippled through the air. No need for formalities. Du Xiaofu nodded. His gaze swept over them, and he revealed a look of joy. Qiangu Yu, Stone, Silverfox, and the others had all made great progress. What surprised Du Xiaofu the most were Yi Piaoling and Du Yunlong. Their supreme auras couldn't be concealed from Du Xiaofu at all. There was also Dai Xingyu and Zi Xian. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was already aware of the supreme being auras emanating from their bodies. Du Yunlong is here. He's Du Xiaofu's second brother. It's Yi Piaoling and the rest of the 18 celestial guards. They're the desolate nation's 18 weapons of the World Assembly. Cries of surprise rose from all around the square. In the past, how could the tiny desolate nation's cultivators be taken seriously? But now, the desolate nation's cultivators had long since made a name for themselves in the god domain. Du Yunlong and the 18 heavenly guards, in particular, were the most outstanding of them all. Even the 9 great families, the Phoenix clan, and many other Yao clans of the Beast region were shocked. Big sister, second brother. Du Xiaofu greeted Yi Piaoling and the others. He looked at big sister Du Xiaoman and second brother Du Yunlong and smiled. At this moment, from the aura, big sister Du Xiaoman had truly stepped into the initial domain of the martial domain realm. Hula, a blazing aura fluctuated, and a cluster of flames seemed to rise from the distant void. As a young man in flame armor walked out of the flames, he immediately appeared in the void above the square. The young man in the fiery armor stared at the crowd below. His eyes were like 2 volcanoes that could burn and destroy everything. But then, the terrifying aura disappeared. The young man in the fiery armor looked at Du Xiaofu, Long San, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, and the others who were facing each other in the void. Then, he directly landed on the stone platform where the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, was. He glanced at Lian Qingrong and said, "You haven't died yet? Lend me a place to stand." If others approached, they would have been instantly killed by the cold aura. But at this moment, Lian Qingrong did not attack the young man in the fiery armor. "You haven't died, so I definitely won't die." However, Lian Qingrong did not turn her head, nor did she pay much attention to the young man in the fiery armor. Fire Cloud Evil God Dugu Fenshin, Qi Yeshi looked at the young man in the fiery armor who suddenly appeared and frowned slightly. Back then, she had teamed up with Little Xingxing. In addition, there were people looking for this guy to fight. That was why he had left. Whoosh whoosh, soon after, many figures appeared in the sky. Judging from the fluctuations of their auras, they were all from the Beast clan. Their auras were extremely powerful, and Du Xiaofu secretly observed them. There were several figures of demonic beasts. They were definitely from the demonic beast clans of the Beast region. Their cultivation and strength were secretly rippling with astonishing auras. They were all abnormally powerful. Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling. But at this moment, Long San did not pay much attention to the young man in the fiery armor and the demonic beast experts who came one after another. When he saw Du Yunlong and Yi Piaoling, Long San's black eyes surged with fiery anger. Du Yunlong had killed his younger brother, Long Wu. He had been chasing after him for a long time in order to take revenge. Yi Piaoling and the others had killed many dragons and demonic beasts. They had even declared that they would kill all the dragons in the divine domain. Now, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaofu, Yi Piaoling, and the others were standing right in front of him. How could Long San's anger not soar to the heavens? Not many people in the world knew of Long San. But anyone who knew of his name knew how terrifying his strength was. He was an outstanding existence among the dragon's younger generation. Because Long Yi and Long Air had been famous for a long time, even among the Beast clan, they were beyond the scope of the younger generation. Thus, Long San was the number 1 person among the dragon's younger generation. Rumor had it that when Long San was born, the clouds of the 4 seas stirred. Endless dragon roars could be heard. His bloodline was extraordinarily high, and he was known as a pure-blooded descendant of the dragons. At this moment, when he saw Du Xiaofu, Du Yunlong, and the other murderers of his brothers, standing in front of him, and a group of traitors who had disregarded him as a dragon, he was incomparably furious. Killing intent surged in his heart. Although Long San was a little afraid at this moment, more killing intent exploded in his heart. He also had something to rely on. With his current cultivation, he could definitely be ranked as one of the strongest people in the divine domain. Do you think it's useful to have more people? Long San opened his mouth. The black runes on his body surged, faintly transforming into a black dragon shadow in the air. At the same time, the instant he finished speaking, a dazzling divine ring suddenly rose from his body. In an instant, 6 divine rings appeared in front of his forehead, channeling the power of heaven and earth. Boom! Amidst the surging winds and surging clouds, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Long San stepped into the air. A supreme aura suddenly descended from his body and swept in all directions. Roar! Faint dragon roars resounded across the 9 heavens as the sovereign heavenly might radiated from Long San's body. A surge of aura erupted like a volcano, bringing along rumbling sounds of wind and thunder as it howled out. A chilling light gushed out from the pair of black eyes on his face as he roared, "I'm a Nirvana sovereign. Today, I'll start a massacre." Long San's voice was very loud. His voice shook heaven and earth, like a dragon's roar resounding in the void of the square. When the terrifying aura swept out, Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened. His eyes that were originally filled with golden brilliance had now turned into a purple-gold color, surging with killing intent. "So what if you are a Nirvana sovereign?" Du Yunlong opened his mouth. Electric arcs surged from his body, and 6 divine rings soared into the sky, releasing the supreme aura. He was also a Nirvana sovereign. However, this was not the only thing that shocked everyone. The moment Du Yunlong released his supreme aura, the entire square shook violently. In an instant, rumbling sounds like wind and thunder rumbled non-stop. Rumble, amidst the astonished gazes in the surroundings, the entire square was shaking. Numerous figures appeared in the sky, and divine halos that resembled divine flames rose above their heads. They were suffused with the might of supremes, and they charged through the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and the sound of heavenly music resounded incessantly. Yi Piaoling, Su Muxin, Dongli Qingqing, Qi Yeshi, Jialo Jueyu, Jialo Kaling, and Dai Xingyu all activated their supreme aura. Su Muxin, Jialo Kaling, and Dai Xingyu all had 3 divine fire divine rings. Dongli Qingqing had 7 divine fire divine rings, and all of them were incomparably bright, releasing the supreme aura. Humph! Sima Muhan couldn't hold back. With 3 divine rings above her head, she stepped out. She was also a half-step Nirvana sovereign. Nirvana sovereigns are amazing. Zi Xian hesitated for a moment, but then 6 divine rings also rose above her head, releasing the supreme aura. In an instant, the supreme aura surged, causing the void in the square to collapse. Bright light rushed into the sky, illuminating this part of the world with holy light. It was like a miracle. When Long San released his supreme aura, 10 Nirvana sovereigns stepped out in an instant, and 10 heavenly auras surged in the sky. Under such a terrifying heavenly aura, all the living beings in the square trembled and wanted to crawl. Their bodies were limp. What's going on? All the living beings in the square felt their hair stand on end, and they couldn't retract their jaws for a long time. They were completely scared silly. Even the people from the 9 great families were dumbfounded at this moment. They were so shocked that they trembled, and a chill surged in their hearts. Supreme Nirvana sovereigns, 1 in a billion in this world. Any one of them was a peerless existence among their peers, enough to shake the world. But now, a bunch of them appeared at once. Long San had just released his supreme aura, but in an instant, he attracted the pressure of 10 Nirvana sovereigns. He couldn't help but be heavily slapped in the face. Oh my God, I must be dreaming. Am I seeing things? Some supreme nirvana sovereigns seem to be different. Oh my God, a bunch of nirvana sovereigns have appeared. Some living beings had already collapsed on the ground, patting their heads, thinking that they were dreaming. This scene was too unreal, and it was simply unbelievable. Chapter 1665. 10 Supreme Beings stepped out and released their Supreme Being heavenly might, causing a shocking phenomenon. The light from the 6 divine rings above Long San's head was drowned out. Goo goo, at this moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and swallowed their saliva. Lian Qingrong, Mo Runan, Zhou Xiaoluo, Fire Cloud Evil God Duga Fenchen, Su Yangzi, Kong Sansi, and the others were all stunned. The Nightmare Dragon King was also stunned. 10 Nirvana Supreme Beings had appeared in an instant. This was definitely a terrifying force in this world. In the future, it could be said that they could overturn this world. 10 Nirvana Supreme Beings stepped out. Terrifying auras filled the sky and dazzling light shone. The heavenly might rolled and intimidated everyone. All of them looked at Long San with malicious intent. It was very likely that these 10 Nirvana Supreme Beings would join forces to attack Long San. The demonic beasts and flood dragons that followed the dragons also felt a huge pressure at this moment. They were suppressed to the point that they couldn't even raise their heads. The appearance of 10 Supreme Beings was too shocking. Long San is really unlucky. An old man sighed. Long San was arrogant and casually showed off. Who knew that 10 Nirvana Supreme Beings would appear? He was simply unlucky to the extreme. However, after praying for Long San in their hearts, the living beings present all felt a deep sense of shock and fear. With so many Supreme Beings together, who could stop them? Some of the demonic beasts present were secretly rejoicing that they didn't follow the dragons from the beginning. Otherwise, if they offended the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, the group of Supreme Beings beside him would be enough to kill them one by one like ants. Other clans had only one Supreme Being, but the Demon King had a bunch of Supreme Beings beside him. Other than sucking in a breath of cold air, everyone in the surroundings of the plaza was in an uproar. 10 Nirvana Supremes were suppressing Long San. How shocking was this? If this news were to spread, it would be enough to shock the world. On the contrary, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes, which were originally surging with killing intent, began to calm down. His heart was fluctuating. He didn't expect that Zi Xian had also broken through to the Nirvana stage in the divine domain. She had even stepped into the Nirvana stage of the Nirvana stage. Sima Muhan's half-step Nirvana Supreme Being also surprised Du Xiaofu. Dai Xingyu's half-step Nirvana Supreme Being Nirvana Supreme Being Nirvana Supreme Being made Du Xiaofu felt a little regretful. Dai Xingyu had an exquisite heart. What kind of talent was this? It was almost comparable to the talent of someone close to the sovereign martial vein, but she didn't have the real tempering herself Supreme Being. Otherwise, Du Xiaofu felt that Dai Xingyu's Nirvana Supreme Being realm wouldn't be below Dongli Qingqing. This was the difference between Dongli Qingqing and Dai Xingyu. At this moment, Long San was the one who collapsed the most. He already knew that the people beside Du Xiaofu weren't ordinary, but he didn't expect them to be a bunch of Supreme Beings. Long San originally wanted to get rid of Du Xiaofu as soon as possible. Who knew that he would provoke a bunch of Supreme Beings? What else could he say? Although the strength of this group of Supreme Beings varied, Long San was very clear in his heart that he would not be able to gain any advantage if they were to really fight. However, Long San didn't back down. He fought against the 10 Supreme Beings. A powerful dragon aura spread out, and there seemed to be a dragon's shadow soaring in the depths of his eyes. At this moment, the 11 Nirvana Supreme Beings released their heavenly aura, causing the space in the square to tremble. Du Xiaofu, are you trying to rely on them to deal with me? Long San spoke, and his voice echoed in the square. His gaze swept across the 10 supreme beings in front of him, and his eyes twitched. Why do we need to work together to deal with a mixed-blood dragon like you? Little Xingxing walked out. Her childish voice and small figure didn't match her domineering aura. She glanced at Long San and didn't think much of him. She said, I alone am enough to deal with a mixed-blood dragon like you. You must be that dragon. As a member of the dragon clan, you have a different heart. You deserve to be killed. Long San's face was gloomy. As the number 1 person among the younger dragons, he had his own strength and pride. He didn't back down when facing so many supreme beings. A mixed-blood dragon dares to call himself a dragon? Little Xingxing sneered. Her small figure stepped forward, and golden flames rose in her eyes. She started to emit golden light, and a huge pressure was released. She was going to deal with Long San. Seeing that Little Xingxing was about to make a move, Qi Yeshi, Jialo Kaling, Zi Xian, and the others restrained their auras. They knew Little Xingxing's strength, and she wasn't as harmless as her childish appearance. Then, Dai Xingyu, Sima Muhan, and the others hesitated and retreated. They restrained their auras, and the heavenly aura in the air dissipated. Wait! At this moment, Du Xiaofu pulled Little Xingxing and looked into the distance. He suddenly felt his heart heating up and trembling, and blood was surging in his body. It was an aura that he had never felt before, but it was so familiar. Whoosh, 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 in the direction that Du Xiaofu was looking, there was the sound of wind breaking. A large number of rainbow-colored figures swept across the sky under everyone's gaze. That aura. It's the people of legalism. Qi Yeshi raised her eyes as she felt the aura. She saw traces of legalism's aura. That meant that the people of legalism had also arrived. Legalism. Du Xiaofu also felt the aura of legalism. His eyes glowed, and he slowly clenched his fists. There was a chill, but there was also nervousness and anticipation. After a few flashes, there was the sound of wind breaking in the distance, and hundreds of figures were rushing over. The figures were all wrapped in rainbow-colored light. They flew over like lightning, and they brought with them a vast aura. Under the gazes of everyone in the square, almost 300 figures swept across the sky. The vast aura that they brought with them was not inferior to the school of Moism, school of Yin-Yang, or school of agriculture. However, there weren't many of them. Among the 300 figures in the air, there were only 2 people who attracted the most attention. The 2 people were a man and a woman. The man was middle-aged and his long black hair was untied and draped over his back. It was smooth like silk satin as it poured down his shoulders. On his handsome face, there was a pair of beautiful eyes that could captivate one's soul. When he appeared, he looked at the people in the air and slowly scanned the surroundings. His red lips were slightly pursed, and he seemed to be smiling yet not. His temperament was calm and elegant, as if he was in a posture that made him seem like he had experienced the vicissitudes of life. As he scanned the surroundings, all the living beings in the square felt their hearts tremble for no reason. When they looked at his enchanting eyes, they felt as if he was the only person in the world. At this moment, there was a young woman standing beside the man. She was the only one who wasn't drowned out by the light. She stood quietly in the air. Her green dress fluttered in the wind, and her jet-black hair cascaded down her back. She was as otherworldly as a fairy, and she looked down on the world. That woman looks very similar to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. The otherworldly woman's figure floated in the air. When they saw her beautiful face, they were surprised. Almost everyone was surprised to find that the beautiful woman looked very similar to the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. It's the eldest princess. When they saw the otherworldly woman, many people in the desolate country were surprised. Xiao Jing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and many other disciples of the Du family were surprised. They immediately looked at Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's heart was boiling. The new heart in his chest was beating continuously. Slightly raising his head, Du Xiaofu's eyes looked at the face in front of him that had appeared countless times in his mind. Looking at that face, Du Xiaofu's face rippled with a faint smile. It was as if his face was cramping. He looked a little silly and a little dazed. On the woman's otherworldly face, her eyes were also looking directly at Du Xiaofu. When their eyes met, her ethereal eyes shone like stars, but her alluring face was also in a daze. Then, the corners of her mouth moved slightly, but she didn't say anything for a long time. Walala, Du Xiaofu smiled and slowly walked out. Step by step, the space under his feet rippled. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's face maintained that silly smile as he walked towards the fairy-like woman. The woman looked up and her body trembled. As she stared at the figure walking towards her, she had once looked into the distance and pictured the scene of them meeting each other countless times in her mind. She had also imagined his appearance many times, but at that moment, her feelings when she met him were similar to how she imagined him to be, but also vastly different. The woman's body trembled and she also walked out. Step by step, she walked towards the man in purple. Her green dress fluttered in the wind and her hair danced. She was so otherworldly and arrogant. For some reason, the space around them suddenly fell into a strange silence. It was as if the entire space had silently frozen for them. When the middle-aged man in legalism saw the woman walk out, his purple eyes moved. However, he didn't say anything. He just watched as if he was sizing her up and waiting for a certain result. He knew that this day couldn't be stopped. It would come sooner or later. Chapter 1666. So she's the girl from the legends. In the lineup of the major clans and top forces, there were a few elders whose eyes were shining brightly. They had heard some rumors. Du Xiaofu stood in front of Du Xiaojing with a dazed smile on his face. At this moment, that beautiful face appeared in front of his eyes. At this moment, Du Xiaofu really wanted to caress that moving face, but he restrained himself. He was secretly at a loss for what to do. This feeling seemed to be even more nervous than when he first met his mother. They were born from the same mother. They were separated from each other when they were born, and only now did they truly meet each other. Some of them were familiar with each other due to the connection of blood, and some of them were unfamiliar with each other. Brother, finally, Du Xiaojing's red lips opened a few times, and a voice came out. Looking at that resolute face, her heart trembled and ached. How much inhuman training and tempering did he have to go through to make that face so resolute? Why are you more beautiful than me? Du Xiaofu's smile turned into doubt as he looked at the face in front of him and said such a sentence. Du Xiaojing couldn't help but smile. The nervousness in her heart disappeared with a smile. She had never thought that they would meet each other like this. At this moment, Long San had also retracted his sovereign heavenly might. Looking at the handsome middle-aged man with a calm and elegant demeanor, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Wudi, you're finally here. That brat is related to your legalism. Are you in charge of dealing with him, or should I help you? Long San opened his mouth and said while looking at the middle-aged man. He's related to my legalism, but it doesn't matter. If you don't have the strength, you can retreat to the side. Qin Wudi spoke. He didn't pay much attention to Long San. On his handsome face, his enchanting eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaojing. He slowly took a step forward as his voice rang out, Xiaojing. Third uncle. Du Xiaojing looked at Qin Wudi, and her body trembled slightly. You are a member of legalism. Qin Wudi opened his mouth and walked past Du Xiaofu. He looked at Du Xiaofu and pursed his lips. There was a smile that was not a smile on his face as he quietly stood there. It was as if he had been through the vicissitudes of life until the end of time. Xiaojing, you can leave first. Du Xiaofu said to Du Xiaojing as he stared at Qin Wudi. From the primordial spirits of many legalism disciples, he already knew of this person's existence. Qin Wudi was a terrifying existence in legalism. He was above Haningma, but no one knew exactly how strong he was. He had always been in seclusion and hadn't come out for dozens of years. Du Xiaojing's skin was fair and translucent. She gazed at Du Xiaofu, who was not far away from her. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and her body was faintly suffused with a kind of radiance. There was no aura fluctuation, but it was invisible enough to compete with Qin Wudi. At this moment, Du Xiaojing's heart was complicated. From the moment she entered the divine domain, she knew that this day would come. When the time came, how should she choose? Her brother had already sacrificed too much. Could it be that she still wanted him to carry on? Little sister, you can leave. You don't need to interfere. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaojing. For the first time, he called out the word, little sister, that he had missed countless times in his heart. Xiaojing, you can leave. Remember that you are a member of legalism. Qin Wudi said to Du Xiaojing. Du Xiaojing looked at the two people in front of her. She didn't know who it was, but her eyes fluctuated. She then turned around, streaked across the void, and retreated into the legalism formation. Du Xiaojing raised her eyes and looked at the two people in front of her. Her eyes became calm again. In the legalism formation, many old people secretly smiled when they saw Du Xiaojing retreat. It was as if their hearts that were hanging in the air were quietly put down. Looking at Du Xiaofu, who was standing in front of Qin Wudi, these old people of legalism who had entered the divine domain felt a chill run down their spines. Qin Wudi, he is Qin Wudi. Back then, he was the peerless genius of legalism. He was known as one of the 3 strongest people in the world in tens of thousands of years. He was the hope of legalism. However, there was suddenly no news of him. Now, he has actually appeared. In the square, many old people and middle-aged people secretly spoke. They had heard some rumors back then and knew a lot of things. However, the young people now had never heard of Qin Wudi. In fact, not many people even knew the name Qin Wudi. Qin Wudi of legalism and Gongsun Wuji of the school of vertical and horizontal. Back then, those two were known as the 3 strongest people in the world in tens of thousands of years. However, they both disappeared. Rumor has it that all of this is related to a young man in the outside world. Qin Wudi, he really came. Behind Du Xiaofu, Qi Yeshi's eyes flickered with starlight as her brows slightly knitted. Qin Wudi, that was a legend nearly 30 years ago. I'm afraid that many people in the world have already forgotten about him. Some of the middle-aged people of the various families looked at Qin Wudi from afar. Some of them had blazing eyes. In their generation, Qin Wudi was a legendary existence. He's still as elegant as ever. Some of the beautiful women of the 9 great families looked at Qin Wudi with infatuation in their eyes. They couldn't forget that heroic figure from back then. There are some debts that you, father and son, can only wash away with blood. Qin Wudi looked at Du Xiaofu and said. His voice seemed to have a penetrating power. His calm and elegant temperament gradually rippled. The aura on his body began to fluctuate vigorously, giving people a feeling of invincibility. Boom! As his voice fell, the space around Qin Wudi trembled violently. Winds rose and clouds surged, forming a terrifying independent void domain. Rumble, an extremely terrifying aura filled the air. Above the void, there was a faint phenomenon. There were stars revolving, ferocious birds flying in the sky, and the heavens and earth spinning. It was terrifying and unparalleled. Heavens, the Nirvana peak. When that aura and unusual phenomenon appeared in the sky, countless exclamations were emitted from the surroundings of the square. Some people felt Qin Wudi's cultivation. He was a Nirvana sovereign, the Nirvana peak Nirvana realm. That terrifying aura seemed to only revolve around the void, and there wasn't even any aura leaking out. But it was because of this that it made people feel that it was powerful and terrifying. On the several huge rocks in the square, when Qin Wudi released his aura, Lian Qing, Dugu Fenchen, the green-clothed youth full of vitality, the black-clothed youth with eyes like the nine nether hell, some figures from the demonic beast clans, Mo Runan, Zhou Xiaoluo, Kong Sansi, Su Yangzi, and others, were all stirred up. Legalism is fused into it. What a powerful Qin Wudi, he still has the aura of being invincible. Some middle-aged and old people with sharp eyesight couldn't help but secretly exclaim. They spied on that terrifying aura. Be careful. When Qin Wudi released his aura, Qi Yeshi's beautiful figure stepped forward. Sima Muhan, Su Muxin, Jialo Jueyu, and the others faintly moved. In Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's eyes, a golden light began to spread, and a golden flame rose in their eyes. Legalism, I will personally take care of it. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and waved his hand at Du Xiaoyao, little Xingxing, and the others. Once again, he stepped across the void, and golden light rippled on his body. A great battle is going to happen. This is going to be a peerless battle. Qin Wudi's true self is at the peak of the Nirvana realm. He's one generation higher than the Demon King. Can the Demon King and Du Xiaofu contend against him? The Demon King has never been defeated among his peers. He looks down on his peers and looks down on the world. Qin Wudi also swept his peers almost 30 years ago. He's peerless in the world. Both of them are undefeated and have the aura of being invincible. I wonder who will win and who will lose. Looking at the scene in the void, everyone's eyes around the square became serious. Even Ku Qingrong, Dugu Fenchen, Mo Runan, and Zhou Xiaoluo were staring at each other. Long San, on the other hand, withdrew at this moment and quietly retreated to the side of the Hui Dragon King. His eyes revealed a faint sneer. Although he had joined forces with legalism, this scene was definitely what Long San was most happy to see. No matter who lived and who died, or if both sides suffered in the end, it would be beneficial to him. Boom! The moment Du Xiaofu stepped across the void and landed, golden light rippled out from his body. Golden talisman patterns rippled, purple flames surged, and starlight rippled. A vast qi lingered in the surroundings, turning into a domain that would not be inferior to Qin Wudi's body. The Demon King has also stepped into the Nirvana realm. When this domain appeared and squeezed the void, some exclamations exploded. At this moment, everyone knew that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, had also stepped into the Nirvana realm. There's the aura of my Phoenix clan. It's the profound meaning of the purple flame demonic Phoenix clan. Among the members of the Phoenix clan, some of them were shocked. Then, they looked at Zi Xian. It's the profound meaning of the stars of my Yinyang school. Some elders of the Yinyang school were also astonished. The Demon King's domain was fluctuating with starlight. That was the profound meaning of the stars of the Yinyang school. It was not comparable to the ordinary profound meaning of the stars of the outside world. Oh my God, are these two fellows going all out from the start? Around the square, some of the living beings were shocked. At this moment, just the aura above the void was already enough to make them tremble. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Qin Wudi represent legalism. They already have an irreconcilable blood feud. At this moment, they will naturally go all out. They also do not underestimate each other. Moreover, a lion will use its full strength to catch a rabbit. This is the quality of a top expert. Many experts have suffered because of their carelessness. Some elders warned the younger generation who were exclaiming in surprise. Everyone was waiting anxiously. One of them was a peerless existence who had already swept through his peers 30 years ago. He had never been defeated and was known as one of the 3 strongest experts in thousands of years. As for the other one, he was the famous Demon King. In the 9 prefectures and the divine domain, he had left behind an insurmountable legend. Even among those of the same generation, he had never been defeated. At this moment, although the two of them were separated by a generation, no one could tell the final result. They could only wait for their battle to know the result. Who will win and who will lose? But when they thought that these two were both invincible existences who had reached the nirvana stage of the nirvana realm and were about to fight, most people couldn't help but feel their blood boiling. Perhaps this was the peak battle that represented the two generations of the clan. Above the void where swords were drawn and bows were bent, the atmosphere froze. Qin Wudi looked at Du Xiaofu with a calm expression. Ripples appeared in his calm eyes. According to the information he received, when he entered the divine domain, the youth in front of him was only at the nirvana realm. But now, he had already reached the nirvana realm. This kind of breakthrough speed made him feel an inexplicable tremor. You've broken through extremely fast. You're also talented. But do you really think that you can fight against my legalism? Or are you relying on the help of the Golden-Winged Rock clan and some women? Isn't this a little too naive and immature? Qin Wudi's voice penetrated the void. His voice was mixed with an invincible domineering aura. He looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "As your elder, my last lesson to you is that you are a true expert by relying on yourself. It's useless to rely on everything around you. In front of a true expert, everything is illusory." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.